What is up? We are back again, baby. Um, today we're gonna be doing episode 9. We are 9 episodes young. So if you are interested in, you know, any of the political happenings that are going on right now, or interested in, just working on yourself. Nate and I are working on ourselves a lot right now, and we talk a lot about, contribution to your community and things like that. So if you're interested in any of that, then just give this a listen. We had a really good time with this. This one's long. We took our time, uh, and yeah, we hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Welcome to the show, baby.
Well, that's the thing. I realized because I was doing it for like 8 days, which didn't feel like isn't realistically a long time. It felt like a long time.
Yeah, when
Uh,
you're withdrawing, yeah.
right. So it's like if I figured out if I was just working out through it, then I'd feel way better. I felt like just drinking a lot of water helped, just like staying active. But it's also realizing I can just quit. So I've just realized whatever it is, like I got over the hump, and then I've just been like in a bad place recently. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just so snappy, so almost, I don't know, almost like paranoid in a weird way. Like paranoid how is this person like, are they trying to attack me? Like not physically, but
Yeah.
was that someone directed at me? Like, well, just this weird kind of hypervigilance that I'm like just not used to. Like it feels a little bit weird. So I was like, okay, I don't really want to I don't want to be doing this for my own sake. I don't want to be inflicting it on my parents or like my friends or my sister or whatever. So um, for now, I'm gonna like keep things a little bit more constant, which I know spits in the face of our whole thing of, no drugs. But maybe I just got to alter myself for a little bit right now, while like the real me catches up a little bit.
Yeah. And that's why I said like I'm not gonna like throw shade on you. Like I know like you're working through some shit. And I know too, like, um, I don't know. I feel like it's something like right now, something that I've noticed is like really, really hard for people. And like subconsciously, this has been hard for me too, but like not necessarily as hard as I've noticed it in other people, but like still difficult for me without me even recognizing it is
Yeah.
just like a change of scenery, like a big change, like a change in lifestyle.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah. We're obviously both home now. Like, how are
Right.
you doing with that? Like, because you've been home for a week.
Yeah, I've been home. Yeah, I've been home for a little less than a week. I got home Friday and now it's Tuesday. So yeah, no, I mean, I've been doing well. I've been able to like over the pandemic, Carolyn couldn't come over here as much. Because my
Right.
parents were just worried about it, more so and more so than her parents. So I would go over and stay with her, but she's been able to come here more already than before. And my parents, we just had a conversation today about, like it's hard to like, this is going to be such like a little problem to most people, but like for us to go home, like it's
Yeah.
hard because like we're at school where like we're with people who aren't as much at risk, and now we're at home with people who are very worried about the coronavirus and who are
Yeah.
more so at risk. And so like balancing the risk of that is difficult for both of us. Nate and I have a similar situation, and they've already been more like kind of relaxed about it, which is great. And like I definitely want to make sure that I'm like doing my part to be responsible with their
Right.
leniency. But it's been really good to have Carolyn here because that just helps me be with my parents more. And like, I don't know how your parents have been doing, but my parents have been having a really hard time with school being online, like just
Yeah.
really not vibing with it at all.
Dude, my parents, they don't like it, but you know what? I mean, they realize it is what it is. Whoops. Um, I mean, so they are obviously like teaching online now, but for the longest time they were going in for like 1 week at a time. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's not the best for the students, but they're like, oh, we love being online because we don't got to go in. We don't have to like do anything like we don't have to do anything like crazy extra. Like we don't have to wear a mask all day. You
Yeah.
know, we take breaks in between our classes. The
Yeah.
other thing is like, I don't know if this is happening with your parents, but like, dude, anybody who knows like teachers right now, they're this weird front that we're like not talking about, and a lot of people aren't talking about. They have so many like new sections of classes because they've had to split up so many classes that are in person. And this is happening with professors too, but yeah, it's they prefer being online, but they do realize that it compromises the students' education a little bit, which they're not like hyped about for obvious reasons. Yeah,
Yeah, I think my parents are sort of like a little more old school in a way that just like being online is, not really not vibing with them. And honestly, like, too, I want to say
yeah,
this not like too loud because they're down the hall, but um I've been a little bit bummed out with like their approach to this. Like I've been a little bit like
what do you mean by that? Like,
I just wanted them to be more resilient, honestly. I expected more out
yeah,
of it. And I think it's not a place of judgment that's coming from. Like I recognize like, they have like 4 or 5 years left teaching. They've been doing it forever. They're a little bit burnt out to say the least, this, that, and the other thing. But it just like I'm not like, and I'm young and I haven't been through what they've been through. So this might be a very naive statement, but I'm not like on the train of like suffering through something. Like it sounds like your parents are like, this is great. We can be at home and this, that, and the other. And my parents are like
right,
allowing it to bog them down. And that's kind of been a bummer for me because my parents are very strong people. Like this is the first time that they really showed me, or maybe that I've recognized
right.
that kind of, and that's kind of been like a weight on me, honestly. Like I've talked to my brother about it. And this goes back to the question you asked me, like how's it being home? Like I feel like I need to be here more. And part of that is because like I want to be here for my relationship with my parents. And
Yeah.
that is because like they kind of need me right now. Like I feel like that, you know?
Don't we're at a very weird place. So my younger sister, she just came home. And she's been, she's like talking to my parents and everything. Like we're all socializing. I've been home since what was it? Like the 11th or something, maybe earlier than that. Like basically like beginning of November.
Yeah,
November.
like the 1st of November or something.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been here like doing chores for them, helping them like walk the dog, like make dinners
Right.
every now and then,
Right.
like, just spend time. Like, yeah, I would rather be upstairs, like doing schoolwork or like working on something or like watching something that I'm like interested in or like,
Yeah.
not even hanging out with friends because nobody was really here. But yeah, she came back and it was like, I remember how I was when I was in freshman year. I came back and I was like, oh, you know, I'm returning to my hometown. I like went away. Like, I run this now. Like, I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And it's like watching my sister adopt that attitude. Now, just being literally 2 years older, I'm like, holy tone deaf. Like, do you not see what like mom and dad are going through? Like, we got to help out. Like, you can't be like, don't be asking for money right now. Like, don't, you know,
Yeah. Dude,
don't,
the nuances of
yeah.
being in college are gone. I feel like at least while we're home. Like, and I think like that's really, I totally feel you on that.
Yeah. It feels like we're parenting for our parents to some degree. But it's like it's exactly what you're talking about. Like people who were resilient or strong for so long in our lives, whether it's the fact that they actually are breaking now, I think it's really just an awareness thing. Like, we're in our 20s, like we're becoming older, we're like in our junior year of college, like we should be more aware. So like,
And happy. I mean, this is the best time for us to be happy. Like there's studies that say like 20 to 30, like the age between 20 and 30 is the time that like humans are on average most happy, which is depressing as fuck. But like,
yeah,
like on the one hand, it's easy for us to be like, man, why aren't they just happy? And on the other hand, be like, man, I could not do enough right now for them.
yeah, yeah.
It's hard to walk that line.
Oh, dude, it's so weird too, because like, I mean, we've had so many of these moments where it's like you come into a new awareness, and from that awareness is born more sadness, or just, oftentimes I feel like it's disappointment. Why can't this be this way? Like, why can't we fix that? Why can't this be better?
Right.
I find like that's a almost like a point of like sadness for me. Like,
Mm,
I find out that something's shittier than I thought it was. And it's like once you come into that new awareness, you're like, okay, how many of those have our parents had that we haven't had? You
right.
know, like they're just so much more like woke than we are, that it's like, okay, they've been beaten down by, the road of life, and best thing I can do is just like spend some time. Like, I've been just hanging out with my dad every now and then,
Mm,
like trying to drum up conversation or engage
yeah.
him with whatever it is he wants to like talk about. And I don't think selfishly I wouldn't have done that at another time in the past.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I've been doing that today. I just did that today. I told him about our little experiments and stuff. And he was talking about some book he read, and I like related it to what you and I were doing with the dopamine fasting kind of thing.
yeah.
What you
That
said, what's up?
I real quick, I was gonna say that's another thing. So that aggression I was talking about earlier, I don't know how much of that is a result of dopamine fasting.
Mm.
I don't know if that's keeping me fat and happy, and that's why I wasn't being so like all the time. But
The
that's
world,
it's something I got to work on, anyways. Um, I don't know. Sorry, what were you gonna say though? Because I
no, dude, you're good. The world is a lot harder to see when you're not plugged in, like it's a lot harder to like experience life when you're not constantly, like stimulating yourself. But what I was gonna say too is like I forgot this earlier, but when you were talking about your sister, saying how you would have acted that way freshman year, but now you wouldn't have, and think about how much like you've grown since then, and how like at least for me, like I feel like things that I said and did then are so ridiculous, like so
yeah,
like what the fuck was I thinking, what was I doing, like I was so like I think I was like so naive and so like narrow-minded, and now it's been 2 years just like you said, and it's like when you're in a positions where like our parents are in, like imagine doing that 20 times. Imagine
I
looking back 2 years ago 20 more times and being like, wow, can't believe I didn't know shit. Wow, can't believe I still didn't know shit. It's like that paradigm or not paradigm, it's like that paradox thing where it's like
know.
the more you learn, the less you know, or something like that.
What do you think, dude? What do you think happens? Like, okay, that's happened to us. I know it's happened to me probably like
Mm.
4 times so far, where
Yeah.
I've been like, okay, a month ago, a year ago, whatever. I didn't know shit. Let's bout face, right? Like, let's make some changes. Let's fix this. It's like our spring cleaning, basically.
Right.
Uh, it's easy to meet that with enthusiasm at our age, because we haven't had it so many times that it's still novel. The same way that after a while, a snowy hill doesn't excite you the same way it would when you're a kid, or the same way that like seeing a dog wouldn't, like when you're younger, it's like you see a dog, you're like, whoa, like what is this magical beast? Like, or like a horse or something like that, something mundane, but you just haven't come into contact with it as many times. As you get older, you go through that, fixing period, that spring cleaning. How many times do you get before it becomes mundane? Like, you know, this we talked about this a while ago. The fact that like And I mean, I guess also this is just like a fact. As you get older, you're not going to want to change what you're doing. It's like an old dog can't learn new tricks. Is that because like the process of learning that new trick becomes mundane? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Or you're just tired of continuing to learn. And that's,
Yeah.
that's exactly what we were talking about earlier with like just change and how hard it is for people in my life and myself to go through like a big change in lifestyle. Um, like I think it's interesting to consider like life as it was and then life as it is and how quickly it changes. Like, we were at school, we were doing our own thing, no one told us what to do, and now we're home. And like something I noticed is like today, I was home all day. Today I was home all day. And like I gotta be honest with you, like that's rare. Like, and that's not because like I have a fucked up home life. Like my home life is literally like an inch from perfect. Like,
Yeah.
it's because like when I was here in high school and up until this point, like I spent like all of my time out of this house with my friends. And today I was sitting on my couch, like uncomfortable. I was like, I should go see somebody really quick before dinner. Like I should just go out for a quick drive. And then I was like, no, like let me just sit in this like new uncomfortability. And like it's not new, but it's the first time I recognized it,
Right. Yeah.
let me just read my book for the second time today. Like I never read. Like,
Dude, well, I, I'm not gonna lie, I've been doing that a lot. Like the fact that nobody's been around,
right.
the constant thing of being alone in your house, or not alone, but it's like, my parents are here, my dog's here, my cat's here, but it's still, you know, I can't have the conversations that I would want to have with like peers that I would have with my parents.
Right.
Um, it's just disconnect. Yeah, doing that for like a month, it it gets to you. Like I I'm starting to feel just like socially, I'm like not regressing, but like I'm like out to lunch when I interact with other
Yeah,
people.
your time out, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
I
I have no like social patience or anything. I'm just like,
mm,
yeah.
yeah. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird how you can get into these different like not you, like people can get into these different like patterns. Um,
Oh, so my best friend from home, he's a music major, so he wasn't at school. They were just like, do all of your stuff from home because you don't have to be here. You can just send shit in. He was like, okay. Um, and like beginning of this like second round of quarantine since I've been home, like we've only hung out a couple times because he's just like he's busy. He's got to practice instruments like 9 hours a day. So the times that we have hung out, it's like something's weird here. Like we've known each other forever.
yeah.
Like if I could I have a sister by blood, but if I could like have a brother, like that's basically him. Like we grew up together and it's like things were still weird.
Mm,
Um, and it's never been like that. The only reason I think is because like if you're alone by yourself for how many months were we away at school? September, October, November,
not
like
many. 2.5.
2 months. Yeah, 2.5, 3 months. Like I think it just fucks you up after a while. You start to lose, um, yeah, you start to like lose who you are. It's so intrinsic for us to not just measure ourselves off of other people, but also build ourselves off of other people. That when you don't have that option, or if you don't have that like social scaffolding, it's like, what part of yourself do you lose? Do you lose the ability to interact in like a specific way that you might have in the past? Do you lose your ability to really like listen to other people? Like I already feel like that's like happening, and I've been home for only a month. Like
Yeah, I think it like everything in life, like use it or lose it, you know? It's like learning a new language or playing an instrument. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's
hard. Yeah, it's hard to continue that that social awareness. It needs to be like bred. It needs to be practiced. It needs to be an area of focus. And it is really important. For your sanity and for everyone's, like that kind of thing, like being able, like I think the most removed and tortured people are the people who feel like they can't directly interact with the world around them.
yeah, yeah, dude. Like, as somebody who's like had like bad social anxiety before, I
Mm,
can 100% speak to that. Like when you have that feeling of like, um, oh my God, like I don't know what I could possibly say. I don't know what I could possibly do. Like I'm in zombie mode. Like
yeah,
it's hell because it's like you don't know how to like speak to other, like you don't know how to voice that concern to other people anyways. Um, but like normally we have so many tools to offset that, and like we don't now, which dude, I just like I'm seeing all this information about like the vaccine come out. Like Pfizer is doing it, Moderna is doing it. They were what, 94, 95% effective.
really
Get
good.
those shits out now. Because I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
Dude,
As,
you and everyone else, like you,
yeah,
everyone else, and dude, like Nate, like you're really not alone in that. Like that is like
yeah.
I'm not diminishing how you feel at all.
No,
I'm just saying, like, I don't want you to feel like you're the only one. Like, I'm over here thinking the same thing. My family is thinking the same thing. We've talked about it. You know, I think everyone's kind of done this with the pandemic. It just like you discuss it at lengths and that
yeah,
you're not going anywhere with that conversation, but it just helps to like continue to process it. It's like eating like the world's biggest cheeseburger, right? And like being able to accept like and like forgive the pandemic is like eating the world's biggest cheeseburger, right? And it's like every bite you have to chew and chew and chew. And it's like every conversation you have with your family and friends, it's like helping you to process and develop like that part of your brain that's like becoming okay with this reality. And it's like it's so massive. It consumes almost all of your energy if you let it.
yeah, yeah. Dude, I thought I kind of found a way out. I thought I kind of found a way out with like video games. Like I don't really play many video games normally. Like I have an Xbox, but like, you know, a new Assassin's Creed came out, and I was like, all right, let me dust this thing off. Um, and I feel like it's making me like disabled. It's just dude, it's hampered my like reward circuits. I'm doing that like, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., not consuming any entertainment. And then 5 p.m. comes around and I'm like, oh my God, like I gotta play, I gotta make progress. Cause like we don't have classes right now.
Right.
So I can't like I don't have anything that I can like pour time into. Normally like I'll play like when I'm home. A lot of my friends play like Dungeons and Dragons, and we rip it.
So
And
dope.
it's so easy to put so much time into it because it's all just like creative writing basically. Like can't do that right now. Um, you know, might go to like a job and try and cultivate like work relationships. Like because of quarantine, I have to like do DoorDash. So it's just me, myself, and I. You
Yeah.
know, it's, I don't want us to like harp on quarantine forever, but it feels so different. Like being home now versus how it did during the summer. Like over
Mm.
the summer, it was like you could still fuck off and do whatever. Like we, this is it's not responsible, but like we definitely like we were able to do parties over the summer. We were able to do like get-togethers just outside very, very easily. But now it's like, it's 25 degrees at night. Like
Yeah,
everybody come over and let's get frostbite, but let's also get fucked up. Like that's not fun. That's not fun at all.
it's not, and it's you're right. It's a lot harder this semester, and it's just like, or not this semester, this break. Like
No.
like last summer, like you said, you can be outside and like we don't have to stick on the corona for forever because people probably like will want to hear like a little bit and then move on, but I do think like the vaccine is good news, and like we have to ride on that good news, and we have
Yeah.
to also be understand that like it's not over, it's never going to be really over, but it's good news, and like that's can carry us. And I think that's something that I've learned through this is like my parents know this better than anyone else. Like right when this all started, I was in complete denial mode. I didn't consume a single piece of media that concerned the pandemic. I didn't do any research. I completely stayed away from it. And part of that I think was good because there is so much fear mongering and so much like false information and so much stay in your home, stay scared, stay complacent. And that's bullshit. And at the same time, I kind of realized like my approach was bullshit. Like, no, like you need to be educated on what, is important and what's going on because
Well, dude,
that's going to allow you to make the right decision.
there's a balance. Like
I chose to be blissfully unaware though. And that
it's
was a
not
wrong
always,
move.
yeah, it's not always what you should do, but it's definitely the easy thing to do.
Right.
Like,
And that's bullshit. And that's why I'm happy I'm not doing that anymore because it's so much harder to, and this is with anything. So we can branch right off the pandemic into anything. I think this is a way that this is a mentality that I'm thinking people should adopt. Like it is so much easier to remain in a state of ignorance
yeah,
than to
yeah,
solve your
yes,
problems. And
yeah,
so it's like don't like somewhere deep down when you're ignoring something. You are. Like
right.
it could be anything. It could be your health, it could be your relationship, it could be anything. And it's like, no, those things are important enough not to ignore. And like you are bitching out when you don't face those things head on.
Hell, dude. Okay, do you remember what I texted you the other day?
Mm,
This is a. I'm not going to harp on this, but this is a perfect segue. Like the ability to be totally unaware of something that's going on that's disadvantaging a ton of people only because it's not directly affecting you at that time. Like
mm,
that sounds like that's kind of like what happened with you at the beginning of quarantine. Dude, I was doing the same thing. Like throwing parties, you're not being considerate, right? So, I wasn't being a model citizen. Um, Getting together with people who I wasn't sure how like safe they had been or who they'd been in contact with, like that's again not the compassionate or smart like decision. um so it's like what can you do to like change that? Become aware, and then just change your actions going forward. So that's what I've been trying to do, and it hasn't been fun, but it's a necessary evil. So like we obviously have a ton of problems in this country outside of like the coronavirus. um my argument was there is a huge portion of this population who chooses to be just totally unaware of like what's going on with um oh here what we're recording the podcast right now. Sorry, Kira, we'll cut this out. um yeah,
no worries, dude. No worries.
so what I was saying was like being unaware of certain issues only because they don't affect you like really bad inequality in terms of income. Like,
Yo, what's up, everybody? Sorry for this shitty ass quality. Um, we're about to go down a rabbit hole here. So you might want to consider just skipping ahead. We are going to start talking about politics, and we do that for about an hour. So, if you're not into that, that's okay. And we just wanted to give you this chance to like opt forward to a little bit more of a discussion about community contribution and commitment to people that have less than you. It's less political. It's more just about how we try to be better people, how different things that we value, that kind of thing. So that's at an hour and 18 minutes. If you want to skip ahead now, hour and 18 minutes, we just want to give this warning because this is a long one. And if you're not here for all the politics, like we don't blame you. But yeah, if you do want to hear it, then enjoy it. All right, please.
how could the minimum wage not have increased at all when adjusted for inflation between 1971 and now?
The
How can that?
national minimum wage, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
What is it,
whatever.
$7.50?
I thought it was higher than that.
Let me Google it really quick because we
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
computer.
I feel like it's around 10 nationally.
Uh,
But yeah, it
no,
has.
Nate,
How bad is it?
you're gonna be pissed. Hold on.
Real low. Oh, doesn't that break your heart?
It does, and well, it does and it doesn't. So here's what I'm thinking. The states all have the power to change that, and I don't
Right.
know. Let me continue to look into it. I don't know how many states have gone higher than that.
Right.
But
I mean, it's a few. Like I know New York has a higher minimum wage. It's at least 11 right now.
yeah, it's
For a
12
while,
in
12.
the
A lot of
US.
the Western states were talking about getting to 15. I don't think it's happened in a lot of places, but dude, like there's so many people who are against those things because we'd have to pay higher taxes. That's going to allow lazy people who get minimum wage jobs to succeed just as much as the rest of us. Like it's like, hey, guess what? If you want to be unaware and sheltered, who are you hurting? You're hurting yourself a little bit, but more so, like in a way higher degree, you're hurting everybody else who's your community member. Um, with healthcare, um, going back to the quarantine a little bit, like people have healthcare tied to employment. How many people have lost their jobs during the pandemic? What do you need in a pandemic? You need healthcare. Why is it that so many people in the middle of a pandemic no longer have you know, they no longer have the ability to use healthcare to get the kind of like help they need during one of the most during one of the biggest health crises in the last like 30, 40 years? Like it's so backwards. And
Yeah.
you know there's parties in our country that vilify universal health care unattached to employment. And it's like, why are you against that? Are you against that because you don't notice any change in your life? Okay. Um, you're going to get a raise in your taxes. Okay. So the only reason that you're against it is because you're comfortable right now and you don't want anything to change to, possibly help other people. It might be a thing where you're like, people are not aware that it could help others. They think it's only going to hurt them. Wake up. It literally is just, do you want to be that freshman who comes home from college and is inflicting yourself on your parents? Or do you want to be
Mhm.
that person who's helping them? Like at some point, you have to help your community.
So here's my first of all, let me do this really quick just to throw this on now. This, by the way, is this is just Google, the first thing that comes up, so it could be wrong, but it says that 29 states have wages above the federal minimum.
That's
Uh, these states, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, and New Hampshire, have repealed their state minimum in 2011, but adopted the federal minimum wage by reference. So that's pretty shitty. That's really fucking low. Now, keep in mind, it is cheaper to live in a lot of these southern states, these three
that's
specifically.
that's
Um,
true.
so, you know, there's that. But I think what's really hard is like, like I like the idea that the state can decide what the minimum wage is, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I think it's like kind of a discussion of, just like you're saying, like, you know, something I learned in economics at school is that inflation, it's healthy for inflation to increase about 2% every year.
Mhm.
So that's something to consider. Why won't the minimum wage increase with inflation? And you really are fucking over people who don't have the ability to make, who what for whatever reason can't make the money that you can make. And like you said, it's a very ignorant stance. Like, if you can make that money, like, now I'm not like completely into the idea of paying, like, I'm into the idea of paying a living wage for, like, low education workers. Like, I think, like, my ideology on education
Yeah.
is fucking dog shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't be, and that comes with,
Yeah.
whatever, that comes with some caveats, like, you know, like high science and medical profession.
Right.
Those are really important, but like, no, you don't need to pay $100,000 to be a psychologist, and no, I don't need to pay $100,000 to be a businessman. Like, fuck you,
Right.
that's shit. So that's that kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's like, if I believe that, then I should also believe that, like, people should be able to live off of the wages they make regardless. And that kind of comes down to that argument, right? Where it's like, rich people pay a ton of fucking taxes, and it seems really fucking short-sighted to be like, fuck you, I'm not paying more taxes because I've already paid mad taxes. But, like, we need to find a solution where people have the ability to house themselves and, like, live
Right.
comfortably, at least maybe not comfortably, like
Just
you
live.
just live, and you agree,
Yeah.
like, the importance of capitalism in the way that, like, people need to be competitive and
Right.
search a more, like, a better outcome for themselves and
Right.
for the country, whatever. But it's like,
Yeah.
where do you draw the line there? Because, like you're saying, like, inflation increases, the minimum wage doesn't, and people in those states who are really rocking on that poverty line, like, those people are fucked.
Yeah, dude. I mean, okay. Capitalism works until it doesn't. I mean, it here's the thing. There has never been a country, a civilization, um, anything in the entire world. There's never been an organization of humans that hasn't used both capitalism and socialism in some respect.
Mm.
What we're doing right now, a lot of people think that we live in a capitalist free market country. It's like, wake up, we don't. Does the government bail out big corporations? Yes, that's socialism.
Yeah,
We have an ability to
I wish they
outcompete.
wouldn't.
Well, I mean, it's difficult, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you have to some degree.
yeah,
And this is the problem of why we're so entrenched right now with the banking collapse in 2008. If I mean, who was it? Lehman Brothers went under. But then all of these banks, the government said, fuck you. You guys were assholes. You did a ton of unethical like business decisions. You made what was the name? Subprime mortgages, like
yep.
loans
Subprime
that
mortgage loans. Yep.
right, like Lehman Brothers went under and they were like, all these banks came to the government. They were like, hey, assholes, do you understand the fact that we all owe each other a ton of money? If Lehman Brothers goes down, we're all going under.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this thing of the like they have basically established like I don't know if this is a word, but a polyopoly, a monopoly in which multiple corporations have equal stake, but totally uncompetitive fields. If you, I mean, as a new bank, you're not going to get up to the level of Wells Fargo or any of those other, you know, massive banks that exist right now.
Not within like at least a 50-year span.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But also like these banks literally cannot go down because it would take down our economy and the entire world economy and would show us a depression that would make the Great Depression look like a golden age. Like
Mhm.
it would have been it would have been hell. It would have been the apocalypse. So that's where capitalism gets fucked up because if you had government intervention, then you could have stopped those interbank loans, but then it wouldn't have been a connected like collective monopoly that when they say too big to fail, they don't just mean they have so much money and are so established that they can't go away. It's okay. um, they're so interconnected and so a part of every economy in the world that they cannot fail, otherwise we're all fucked. And that, I
Right.
mean, dude, that kind of thing happens everywhere. Not the same level of, trading and lending and, 100 billions tied up in this bank that this bank owns.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky because we don't have a whole lot of control as people or as a government. Like,
Yeah, and the power in the majority is, not really prevalent in that in that instance
right.
when polyopoly is taking place, and
Yeah.
something that's interesting, like if you haven't seen, if you're watching this and you haven't seen The Big Short, you gotta go watch it. It's a goddamn fantastic movie. And it's a little bit hard to follow. I've seen it a couple of times. They do break it down for you, which is good. And it's just really well done, like fantastically done. Check that out. But
Even if you're not a documentary person, like it's just a fun watch.
it's like a movie documentary. Like they made it like for people who hate documentaries but still want to learn some shit. Like that's the kind of vibe of it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think like I think an argument that a lot of people would make to that statement, Nate, is like, like maybe that massive depression where thousands of people or millions of people starve, like maybe that's the only way we can correct. And I think the people that make that, I'm not suggesting that's the right idea, but
Right.
I think the people that make that statement know that they would be okay in that situation, which is kind of like fuck you for that, right? That's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of, that's like closing your eyes and like, like pressing the red button, like you can't see that it's being done, but like it's happening to everyone else. But I think like what's interesting is like there's this Mac Miller quote where it's like we only grow out of anguish, like, and I don't know if that's exact words, but pretty much that's the main statement of the thing. And it's like when we continue to back banks and bail out these massive banks, like I have a Bank of America card because the school has an ATM and I just got an account. And
Yeah. Yeah.
now after watching that, like, dude, I would love to just like switch back to my little credit union or whatever in town. It's not as convenient, but like I certainly will as soon as like I'm out of school. And
Yeah.
it just kind of like, I don't know, people would argue, Nate, like, all this money isn't really our money. We don't really have it. Like it's not really there, and like there's a lot of falsity that like comes with the American dollar. And like if we continue to act like this where we throw money at a situation that we really don't have because money isn't backed by anything anymore. It's just
Right.
money. Like where does that lead us? And that's something that we could see in our lifetime. I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that question because historically, United States has never been subject to hyperinflation ever. But that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. Like,
Right. Yeah. It it's really scary, but that's an argument and an exercise in thinking for why we need more government intervention in our economy. And I don't, I'm not arguing for, China's way of doing it where you have government backed corporations. But I am arguing that we need some kind of regulation. If somebody had gone in the beginning with those banks and said, all right, we're going to put down some legislation, we're going to lay down the laws, you guys can't be assholes, then Wall Street would have been regulated from 1960 to 2000.
But we do have government-backed corporations just in the most corrupt way, right? I mean,
Well, yeah,
because
it's
they,
not government-backed corporations, it's corporation-backed government. I mean, we
yeah,
have
but
we
the
have
government bailed them out.
the government did bail them out, but it's not, I mean, the people who are like passing legislation, they're getting that from corporations. They're
Yeah.
like, I mean, how wild is it that like who who was the Republican Senator John McCain
John
ran against
McCain.
Obama in '08.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was one of the last great conservatives in government.
You think so?
Oh yeah, dude, McCain, he stood for those good conservative values. I'm pretty progressive, but some conservative values I can 100% see the value in.
Yeah.
McCain stood for those. You know, he had some issues, obviously, like on the war front, but in general, I think he was a great senator. He was a statesman. He was a real patriot. He wanted the best for the country, and he was doing so, through how he knew how. He tried to create an anti-PAC bill, and PACs and super PACs donate over 90% of campaign finances. And dude, it basically it got reamed as it went through Congress and whittled down and whittled down and whittled down. So the law right now states that you can't get more than I think $2,500, $5,000 from an individual donor, which is a pretty minuscule amount. However, PACs can accept however much they want. They can receive like, uh, you know, I don't know if there's any limit on how much they can honestly receive, but the only restriction on them is they can't say anything explicitly for the candidate. But when you see a campaign ad that says something like, you know, do you want to live in this America? And then shows clips of some candidates like platform or like what they're talking about as they're running, that's likely paid for by a PAC or a super PAC. They just can't say vote for X or vote for Y. That's it. But
Interesting.
it's the dumbest, most pandering. Like it's literally when they brought that bill to the Senate floor, John McCain's balls were somewhere else because I mean that was supposed to be his baby. That was supposed to be like his legacy as he was leaving Congress and everything. And it just didn't happen because too many people with special interests got involved.
But maybe there was just maybe his balls were there and there was money in his pocket.
Maybe.
I think you can really thank your politicians for, like if you're mad about your minimum wage, if you're mad about the corruption, if you're mad about government bailouts, if you're mad about anything, you can first thank your politicians for being completely fucking bullshit. Like, thank you, see you later. Like, and you can second thank yourself. Bottom end of the line. Did you vote? Did you contribute to that decision? Did you contribute to a campaign? Did you talk to people? Did you have an open discussion? Did you look into things? It's like we all have a responsibility as a people to uphold a level of greatness that we have completely turned a blind eye to. And
yes,
I think as a people, like we have to start recognizing like this is fixable, but this could all end because of the level that we're at right now. And the level of severity is not to be fucked around with. And
it's so much worse than people realize. I've had so many conversations with people and it's just like, oh, you don't get it. We could roam ourselves tomorrow. The wrong person gets elected, the wrong bill gets passed. We could be living in the end times. And I mean, I understand that's sensationalist. I understand that's like, oh, okay, you're gonna have this fatalistic perspective where like everything is like, the worst thing that could possibly happen. It's like, no, unfortunately, that's the fucking reality. Like, if we right now, we have the worst income inequality in the history of the United States. We learn about the robber barons in eighth grade English. We learn about all of these fucked up practices where the only way for people to make money was to live at their boss's manor. Like, not have a life of their own. They're basically servants, like slaves. But you're getting paid like $1
Right.
a day. Like, it is so fucked up right now. The only reason that people don't realize that is because we don't have good journalism right now.
Yeah. And
It's so sad.
shit journalism and shit politicians. And I think, Nate, that people like kind of like us would agree that, this isn't a matter of, like we talked about earlier about like just like being scared, and making people, fear the fate of this country. And that's, this is the reason, like, we're not taking double standard here. Like, the reason that this is different, the reason that we're being so like um serious about this kind of thing is like, okay, you have like tactics where you're like, you know the world's ending, and
Yeah.
corona's going to kill everyone and all this bullshit, right? And then we're being led to be scared about the wrong things, so that the people who
Yes.
actually make decisions don't have to. I mean, look at what Trump did. Everyone who fucking got mad at a Trump tweet, go fuck yourself. Because
Yeah.
yeah, you should be mad, but he just completely threw you off your track. And that's what
Yeah.
everyone's doing. It's not just Trump. It's everyone. The media is completely leading us into this long trail where we are just
Yeah.
completely like looking the other way. And then all of these massive things where, we're on social media and we think we're making a change, and we're affecting, positive change.
Right.
No, it's like,
You're not
fuck
doing
you.
shit.
It's like, this many people have all the power, and you don't even know what they're doing and what decisions they're making, because you're way down this other train that, like, you
Yeah.
think you're helping, but you're not.
Dude, it's fringe social issues. So fringe social issues are things like abortion. That's where you get your one issue voters. I hear so many fucking like, so I'm gonna go on a tangent here. We talked about before, like, um, all of like fucked up beliefs or just like not awareness. Like, I hear so many people from differing parties talk about social issues. Shut the fuck up. It does not matter. I understand so fully that it's like I'm allowed to say that because I'm white, male, I have all my rights. Great. The first step to making actual change that lasts and is meaningful is establishing economic equality. People do not understand that the single most important thing is economic equality. If you have that, then you have equal players. Right now, we live in an oligarchy. I mean, money rules this country. I don't think anybody would argue that. Anybody who knows a shred about the way that the US works, you can't argue that. Like, if we had, I mean, the important decisions are, how should our taxes be structured? The important decisions are, you know, why are we allowing corporations to, transfer their taxes to offshores? Why are we not making them pay toward the American people?
Yes.
It's all of these fucked up things that not enough people care about because they are complicated and they are not fun to think about and they don't seem like they immediately impact you. And I see people on the
Mhm.
left doing this. I see a ton, almost every person on the right doing this. You know, it doesn't impact me, so whatever. You have so many people on the left going, well, we want equal rights right now. It's like, yeah, and you should. And it's fucked up that you don't. How do we really get there? because
Yeah.
equal rights is not just, you can marry who you want. Um, there will be equal policing of all populations. It's not a race thing, it's not a gender thing, it's a class thing. If you can get to the level where everybody has equal economic opportunity and equity, meaning they can get to the same level of socioeconomic status as somebody else who might be born into a higher like socioeconomic status than they were, then suddenly you have equality in a lot of ways. And like it or not, I mean, economic position, socioeconomic position determines a lot of what your rights and outcomes can be in life. And I know that's fucked up. I know it's not right, but unfortunately, that's the way it works. We live in this money deifying land where we think the American dollar rules all and is all. Why do you think that we could somehow get to equality before we have economic equality? It makes no fucking sense. And
Yeah.
I've said this to people a few times, and I've had people on both sides of the aisle go, "Oh, that's a fucked up perspective." And it's like, yeah, probably at like first hearing, that's a fucked up perspective, but think about it. Like, I want economic equity and opportunity for everybody. If we could do that, think about what that would change. Suddenly, that eradicates stereotypes where poverty is relegated to a single race or gender. Suddenly it allows jobs to be this nondescript, everybody can have it, like, you know it's
I
just
think,
it's so frustrating, man. It's
yeah.
so frustrating.
And Nate, like you're saying, I completely agree. Money rules everything. That's why Republicans love it, and that's why Democrats hate it.
No, dude, the Dems love it. They're
I mean,
equally as corrupt as the Republicans.
right. Well, on the high scale, right? Because those Democrats that you think stand for socialist ideas are getting paid.
Fucking don't. Look at our
Exactly.
candidate. Look at our candidate in 2020.
Exactly.
Okay, there are three ways to fix this. We can start having ranked choice voting, which allows for more than just one party or more than just two parties. Sorry, it allows viable third parties. It would not be a winner takes all system. It would mean that if a Republican comes in first and a Democrat comes in second, the Democrat would be vice president.
I saw that,
Or
Nate. I saw that. That was a actually a question in the Massachusetts ballot. Let me look it up.
yeah,
Um,
it's
I I
so
did
important.
read I did read that um doesn't it got voted down. It did.
Yeah.
It got voted down. I did read that wasn't as effective because of for whatever I don't know. I don't remember what I read, but I
Well,
don't know enough
there's
about it.
there is a ton of people who don't want it to happen because it would destroy the RNC and the DNC. Because if you don't, again, that's a duopoly. You,
Yeah.
there is so much money to be made in campaign financing. It
Yeah.
is business in and of itself. So
Yeah.
if you have a duopoly right there. You only have two players. They go, hey, that's your turf. This is my turf. Let's make some cash. That's
Nate,
it.
this is what I mean when I tell you that people who think that the government isn't working with our businesses are fucking asleep because the businesses are like the business of politics is completely in bed with the government. I mean, it's just that's what it is. I mean that's literally like the power in our country and like exactly like you're saying like I don't know. I think like we might be kind of drilling into this. I think this might be like a little bit like top heavy,
I know.
but
I know.
it's good for us to discuss. And I think like this opinion is something we've expressed before in less detail. And honestly, like it's something too that I like try to, I try to talk with you about like only if I really, feel like I have something to contribute. I only contribute the things that I know to be true, that kind of thing, because like
Yeah,
there's a lot that you know and I don't know and vice versa. And so, that kind
exactly.
of thing. But um, the politics thing is like I think we both agree and we've talked about it before. It's like if we can
Yeah.
really if the power like it does feel like and this is something that I actually looked into because I'm taking this history course, I'm finishing it up the end of this semester and
something that they talk about is, you know, the power in the majority and the ability to, um, I actually had a Google Doc about this. Somebody had written like a whole statement about how because there's so much power in the majority, it like eliminates. It's called the tyranny of the majority. That's like a.
Yeah,
Have you heard of this? It's
we have,
Alexis Tocqueville.
leaving out the have-nots.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an argument for and against democracy, right?
yeah, and basically, you know, something that I'm kind of realizing in this conversation is like I don't know if the majority isn't speaking or if the maybe okay, all right, let's check this out for 1 second. I just had a realization, so I'm just sharing this with you. I basically fucking threw this document together. If people want to check it out, they can. But the first most important thing is just like tyranny is always following the majority of public opinion because in doing so, you almost completely negate the opinion of those in the minority. But maybe the maybe like the majority is being silenced by the government who is the minority right now.
Dude, not just the government. So glad you said that. They're being silenced by the other minority. It's the minority of people who control those avenues that allow us to like really understand shit.
Mm,
Like the media is a good example of that. The government's a good example of that. Like, you know, the DNC and the RNC are good examples of that.
yeah,
When you're telling people what your opinions should be, people are going to lose their minds.
yeah,
I mean, how do you think Trumpism happened? It was a populism movement. Too
right.
many people hopped on it. Like, I don't know. By the way, I didn't want to like. Was there more to go on the doc? Because I
Oh
didn't.
no, I think we just disproved it. I think that that was a very like revolutionary standpoint from a French diplomat who came over to study the jail system in America and ended up writing a thesis on the downfalls of the American way, pretty much. And
Yeah,
it's really fascinating. If you want to look into the tyranny of the majority, like that's something that I just dove into. I thought it was really dope, and I've said this before. Like I'm really into history. I like that shit. So if you do want to look into that, you know, like maybe we'll put a little post together for it. But
put me down. Put me
yeah,
down.
it's dope. But I didn't want to like do too much on it. I just like it just fit in perfectly. And I knew it was going to, which is why I like had written some stuff up about it because I knew we were like gonna end up talking about it. But um yeah, you know, like the government is so big and the big corporate businesses are so big that we've become the minority, even though we have that vote and we have that voice. People don't use it, and I think a lot of people are discouraged from using it. I think people are kind of convinced that you know that their opinion doesn't actually matter, and that there's so much power in those names and numbers of the smallest, most powerful people that are the smallest number of the most powerful people that regardless of what they do, it's not going to make a difference. And I don't think that that's true, but I think, like you said before, you know, we're getting to that point where that could be true if we let it.
I worry that we're like already there. I worry that I mean the way that Trump's tried to like steal this last election, it's you know that's totally an exercise in fascism. And people get all butthurt when people talk about fascism. What is fascism? It's socialism light. It's like more controlling socialism, vilifying a single population, oftentimes because of creed or belief or race or gender, some identifying characteristic. But still having the idea of, well, we have to eviscerate the ruling class, but you're moving the blame of the ruling class. And this is
Mm,
what gets me about that whole movement, the whole Trump movement. It's like they get it, kind of. They know that socialism is what we should be doing, kind of. That whole drain the swamp. Every liberal would agree with that. Get rid of the people who are not doing the right thing in politics. Trump is one of them. Barr is one of them. DeVos is one of them. Like all of those people, are implants of Trump's administration, and all of these people who voted for Trump are being fed lies by that minority that's ruling the majority.
Mm.
It's just like, it's so gross. Like, I mean, I've had so many conversations with really conservative people who are, I mean, like, they want the best. Everybody wants the best. They just don't realize what the best is. We all agree two-party system doesn't work. We all agree corruption should not exist. How do you eliminate those things? Ranked choice voting and democracy dollars, or some kind of publicly funded campaign. Dude, if we had publicly funded campaigns, it
Yeah.
would fix corruption. You would have pork barrel spending still, where you have favors from senator to senator
Mm.
to get people to sign on to their bills, but that just eliminates gridlock. So it's like, can you ever really get rid of that? Um, you want to know the only candidates who have talked about that this past presidential race, all Democrats, and were all weeded out by leftist and right-wing media within the
Yeah.
first round.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang was talking about it. Tulsi Gabbard was talking about it. Bernie Sanders was talking about it. Elizabeth Warren was talking about it. I mean, there's a reason Biden was picked by the DNC. They want somebody who is basically a conservative, isn't going to change anything. They're going to change maybe a few social policies, which are the only ones that the people who are unaware or unawake are gonna like really care about. But he's not going to change the systemic issues, and it's so frustrating. What do we need for that? Like,
Yeah. And this
serious question: do you think we need a physical revolution? Do you think we need a violent revolution? Like,
No, I think we can be better than that. I
what do we need to happen? Like,
I think we need to wake up. I think everyone needs to wake up and return the power of the majority to the majority, not the minority. We've been asleep and allowed the minority to reign, honestly. And we're not talking about like we talked about earlier. We're not talking about minority in the terms of race or religion, that
yeah,
or that kind of thing. We're talking about the minority in the terms of class. And what's interesting is that like all of these social structures are exactly the same except for when you start talking about money, and then it's flipped upside down, right? And the minority is at the top, which is
it's so,
fascinating.
it's so weird. I mean,
It's
also,
very interesting.
if you look back into every civilization that's ever existed, the Native Americans, the government decided how much the wampum was worth. They decided who they traded with because the government, it was just the chief leaders. Um, I mean, that's socialism at work. In ancient Greece, like the birthplace of democracy, they were so socialist. Everybody got money. They just gave money to people. If you were poor, they would just give you food.
Mm.
How come the creators of democracy like intertwined socialist and capitalist values perfectly between the two for a democratic system? Because you need that to have a smart and capable voting class. To have, like, I mean, we talked about either last podcast or a few podcasts ago about the fact that people who are voting, they don't have the time, because they don't have the social safety net. They're like, I can't think deeply about these issues because I got to worry about how I'm going to eat. I got to worry about how my kids are going to go to school. I got to worry about
Yeah.
clothing and sheltering my family. It's so backwards. It's so fucked up. We
I
still
think,
need capitalism,
yeah,
just, I mean, for innovation, for the fact that people need a driver. But when I hear people talk about capitalism versus socialism, it's like, no, idiot. It needs to go together.
yeah,
It's two sides of the same coin. It's that yin and yang we talk about. If you
yeah.
don't have the yin and the yang, what the fuck are you doing? It's not sustainable. It's not going to work. Like,
I was just
blows
thinking the
my mind.
same thing. I knew you were gonna bring it back to that yin yang, baby. That's all we know.
The dichotomy, dude. It's always the rule of two. It's
It is.
always the rule of two.
And it's people who were seemingly so much less advanced than us who figured that shit out. It's not complicated. It's not complicated. What makes it complicated is when there's money and power and prestige, involved, and
Right.
those things aren't evil unless they overcome the goals of the greater good. Those things are okay as long as they don't become, a highway for selfishness. Like it's kind
Yes.
of like you got to keep that thing on as a back road. Like that kind of thing needs to be a back road. That the highway needs to be empowerment of the people. It needs to be, this is your voice, this is your country, and the globalism and the globalistic ideology is great, but we're not even close to there yet. I mean, our
Dude.
country doesn't have our shit figured out, but a lot of other ones don't either, and we can't expect to just trust other people with the well-being of our lives yet. Maybe someday, and maybe we need to work towards that, but like we China was fucked up because of COVID, and then we didn't have any supplies because China gives
Right.
us all our supplies. Like that globalistic idea is very utopian and very far away, if you ask me. And like we need to start rebuilding our country in a way that we can someday get to that globalism idea. And I think this is something that's kind of weird. It's like kind of like a self-centered, um like like a selfish ideology, but it's kind of like if we can't fix ourselves, then we can't help anybody else. And honestly, like,
That comes from a place of wisdom, though.
yeah, I mean,
That
I think it's important.
Yeah, I will say the global economy, the global market, it's inescapable right now. Um,
For sure.
but I totally see what you're saying, dude. I mean, we've harped on problems. We got to start talking about like solutions, like how we know what the solutions are. The foremost economists in the world, everybody who's like, a political analyst, not everybody, but the good ones, they know what we need to do. So
Yeah,
how do we get the individual to start fixing that?
it's leadership. It's leadership in your community. It's leadership in your city. It's leadership in your state. It 100% is. And
People
you know,
people don't like leadership when it doesn't agree with what they already think. I will say that. I mean, that's a huge reason why Trump was so successful. He just confirmed that cognitive bias that so many people had because it was the easy thing to do. And like, we talked about education before.
yeah,
Um, that is so important. But I mean, you have so many people who have a fucked up view of what bias is, where they think bias is leaning toward one political leaning. No, bias is marring facts to fit in line with some kind of predisposition, whether it be right or
yeah,
left. Sometimes, I mean,
yeah.
sometimes things seem super biased, and I'm definitely biased in this respect, but I also know this is going to sound bad. I also know it's right. Like if you go progressive on certain things, it is just the right way to think about it. I mean, with the economy, almost all economic systems that conservatives argue for do not favor people. I would love for anybody who
The
believes in this.
majority, the majority, you mean, they favor a small minority.
They favor a small minority.
Mhm.
But why the fuck would we ever create a system that only favors a small minority? We don't create society for the benefit of 13 people out of 100. We create society for the benefit of all 100 people. And I understand that one size does not fit all. But I mean, going back to the Native American example, when elderly people got too sick to hunt, you didn't kill them.
Mm,
You didn't throw them into the fire.
you
You
fed
hunted
them.
exactly because
Yeah.
they've paid their dues. When you had somebody who had some kind of birth defect, did they toss them out? The Spartans did. But like not all cultures did that. You know, they would just take care of them because they go, well, I'm strong enough to hunt, so I'll do that. That's what being, I mean, if we want to tie this all together in a weird way that some conservatives will understand, you want to be a man, provide for those who can't provide for themselves. You want to be a patriot, provide for those who are worse off than you. Don't have this fucked up view of me and my family goes first. It's like if you have that belief, then it only means you do not have the ability to provide, or you don't have the drive to provide past that. And that is a shortcoming on that individual's part. I believe that so fully and wholeheartedly. If you really love this country, you would understand that we are all one massive community. And that
Mm,
shouldn't be a divisive statement because
no,
that's
it
what the
doesn't
founding
matter.
fathers wanted.
If you,
Like,
yeah, if you believe that, it doesn't matter what your politics are. Like my dad is a
yes.
perfect example. My dad and my mom are the perfect example. They both served my family, and they also served our community in countless ways. And that is
Yeah.
exactly the way it doesn't. You have enough time, you have enough energy, you have
Hmm.
enough money. You don't even need to give money. All you need to give is time. And
Yes.
that's the kind of thing. It's like people don't really understand the power of your time. When you go to the turkey drop off and you
Yeah.
help volunteer your time for free, like, yeah, you're not getting
Yeah.
paid. But somebody's eating because you're there. Somebody's eating at
Yes.
Thanksgiving dinner because you're
It's like
there.
it's like donating your wage. It's like
And
I,
it's priceless though. It's not even your wage because the memories and the happiness and the full stomach that that family is going to feel when you put together their Thanksgiving dinner off of the thousands of donations that you've collected, like that you've collected and assorted and assembled, like there's nothing
yeah.
more fulfilling than that. Like, and I think that people, like you said, Nate, this is what I mean about leadership. It takes a leader to see the full picture. It takes somebody who understands this is what people need. This is what people want. And it's not about what's going to make me money. It's about what's going to make people get by, what's going to make people live
Yeah.
happily, and
Yeah.
and I think that we need to be better. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We can't be complacent. We can't be oblivious to the realities of this world and the realities that don't affect us. And I think that that doesn't just come with posting on social media. That doesn't
Yeah.
just come with
Yeah.
getting pissed all the time and being angry at everybody who didn't use your pronouns the right way. That comes with literally being a better person by
Right.
devoting your time and energy into something that's going to help somebody else other than you. It's not about you. It's never been about you. And the fact that some people think that it's about them is completely damaging on the left and the right and the center. Anyone who thinks it's about them, it's fucking horseshit.
Yeah. Dude, first off, that couldn't have been more beautifully said. Like, I, I need to pee so bad. We got to do a pee break. But
Yeah,
like,
I'm down. I
dude,
got to pee too.
I love the hell out of you. Like that. That was so beautifully said. Like it. We got to attack that when we come back. How to become a better person and be more
Yeah.
empathetic. Like there's because there is stuff that you can do.
Yes.
Like because there's so many people who like aren't gonna go out and like volunteer.
Right.
Like I mean, uh, even liberal families like me and my family do like this one little like shelter like thing where you donate. It's bullshit. It's like 4 hours of your time on Thanksgiving, which is like almost nothing.
That's not
But
bullshit.
it's a little bullshit. But I know so many people who are just like, well, why would I volunteer?
But Nate, that's not bullshit. That's your pessimism kicking in. If every family donated 4 hours of their time on a holiday where they're supposed to just be with themselves, this world would be a much better place. That's not bullshit.
Yeah.
That's
All
important.
right. All right. Well,
But
yeah.
that's the thing. It just takes this much from you. You think it takes this much? It doesn't. It takes this much from you and your family to make a difference. It's not a big sacrifice.
I know, but I feel like we should be doing more. We have so much. We should
Always.
be doing more.
And everyone should feel that way. But something is better than nothing. And that
Yeah.
little contribution is big. It's big in the eyes. Nate, if you and your family put together one meal for somebody on Thanksgiving, the happiness and the love and the fulfillment that is made around that dinner table with that family that you don't know and they don't know that you set it up, it doesn't matter. It's all anonymous. It's
Right.
beautiful. It is
Yeah.
fulfilling in a way that is absolutely, you can't put words to it. Like, it is just the most amazing feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, dude. I'm sorry. My bladder's gonna explode.
Do it. I gotta pee too.
All right, be right back. All right, bro. Sorry about that hiatus. My
Dude,
sister's redesigning a room right now.
oh really? Dude, I'd love to meet Kira. I bet she's mad cool.
You'd fuck with her. The one thing, she's so much more left than me.
Really.
Aggressively.
But Nate,
You'd like it.
dude, you know me. First of
Yeah.
all, I have
You,
tolerance for that. Also, dude, also like people grow up, like even if she never changed, like I would still like obviously like appreciate her as a person. But I think a lot of people kind of like take their time and like look back and be like, oh my gosh, like wow, like that's not realistic at all. Like, you know what I mean? And for the right and the left, not just like Kira and her situation, like some of the things that like I thought were completely right. I was like, and that's kind of like that's kind of that thing where it's like this is how to be a better person, right? So like we can jump back into this like
yeah.
the leadership thing and like how to be a better person for the people that are counting on you to be a better person. And just to be completely clear, like anybody who is in a position, anybody, all right, let's just say this, regardless if you're in a position of stability or not, you have a responsibility as a human to contribute to um, encouraging people to be better. Okay. And that's like a big, to me, that's a big thing for leadership. It's like everyone's on the same boat and we're all rowing. So if one asshole isn't rowing,
Yeah.
that's not their fault. That's your fault because you're not good enough to make sure that they're rowing.
Yes. Yeah, dude. The best way to inspire other people to row harder is to row harder than any other motherfucker on that ship.
Lead by example.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Basic leadership principle.
yeah. And it can be hard to put that into practice if you don't know exactly how you should be like, being a leader or anything. But you know, it comes down to what you should be doing at any time, right? Like, what should we be doing right now? We should be recording this podcast. And what should we be doing when we're going about our normal day to day? We should be, helping to provide in our household. And what kind of, we both have younger siblings. What kind of precedent does that set for them? It sets a precedent where it's like, okay, what we do here is we help. you know what do you do within your community? If you do volunteer, now you set a precedent where it's like you're a bad community member if you don't volunteer. um
Consistently.
yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
something I'm gonna be honest too, like I don't consistently volunteer, but that's
I,
something that I know is important and that I did more in high school than I do now, and that's something that I plan on returning to my daily life, and that
yeah, but dude, it's hard because like we talked earlier about how the US can be better once it's saved itself and now it's able to participate at a global scale.
mm,
um, and as above, so below. As individuals, once we save ourselves and are really in a good place, we can help other people.
right.
um, so right now we're in this weird building stage where anybody else is going through college, high school. I mean, in high school you have a little bit more time. Like you can put time into your community. You can like say, all right, under the guise of me wanting to understand more about the way my community works, and you know, being able to help more people or just having more time to fuck about and maybe better my career interests. I'm going to do this volunteer opportunity.
Right.
In college, it's kind of this continuous grind of I need to make sure I'm established.
Yeah.
But it's like, unless you're doing that to help other people, you fucked up along the way. So,
Yeah, and that's where my nonprofit idea I think kind of comes into play too,
yeah,
which I think would be really cool. And I was talking about it with my mom today. I think that um there's this like definition of courage that I really like. It's like courage isn't being fearless, it's being afraid and then continuing to step into the fire, or regardless of your fear, you fight, right? That kind of thing. And I think that that's kind of, in a lot of ways, that's what being a leader is, and that's what being a entrepreneur is, and that's what being a therapist is, and that's what being, it doesn't matter what you want to do. It's a commitment to being the best version of that uh,
yeah,
devotion, and everyone can, and because it's that applicable, everyone can be um a part of that. Everyone can decide to be the best version of their profession, where they are helping in ways that, in the most influential way, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, anything that you're doing, there's a way to help people. I mean, dude, you're going business, which I mean, typically that's like that's typically a self-interested thing. Like, I'm gonna go into
Yeah.
it for business. Like, I hope I can better my place in life. Your your first thought is, well, how can I use this to help people? That speaks to your character, but it also is like it's a leadership thing. If other people had that kind of understanding, how many different businesses out there would we have that profited off of doing the right thing? And that's a huge issue right now. It's not profitable to do the right thing for the climate, for people, for future generations. Like, bums me out a little bit, but dude, we've been incredibly somber so far. Like, I
Yeah.
think we both come into like a certain awareness about like how fucked up and sad um like our current place is, not so for us but just for other people. And I think like it hurts both of us because we both want the best for this country. I think we both want the best for other people. um yeah, it's so depressing.
It
Like,
is. It is.
and during this selfish period of college, um I think we're on the right path. I don't know though. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, you know, and do I want to get my doctorate because I really want to pioneer some kind of new like treatment method that helps people become better versions of themselves and thusly um whatchamacallit, contribute more to the collective?
Hmm.
Or am I doing it because it's going to increase my potential earnings? Um, is there something evil there, or is that me wanting to like safeguard myself so that I can help other people? That globalist argument of or anti-globalist argument of help yourself first so that you're in a steady place and you can just help other people once you're established.
It's kind of both, right? It's kind
Yeah,
of both. It,
yeah,
it it's it's hard to I think something that I've kind of learned is like you don't know if it's the right move until it's over, and either it was or it wasn't. And the
yeah,
only way to know is to do it, right? So it's like, I think if any younger people around our age are watching this, it's kind of a thing where it's like you don't know for sure that what you're going to do is the right thing, but the only way to know is to try. And if you have the conscious mind to be like, okay, this isn't the right thing, even if it's really prosperous for you, if it's not the right thing to do, then you have a responsibility as a person to find the right thing. And I think that that's where the somberness and the negativity leaves this conversation. I think that I'm going to bring positivity in this conversation by saying that I believe that we have the ability to do the right thing as human beings. And I believe that our generation is fucking just like trying so hard to do the right thing, but
Yeah,
all of their energy is just really misplaced and misguided. And what we need, and something that's so fascinating, is we don't have a MLK. We don't have a leader. We don't have somebody who says, wait, let's refocus his energy. Let's make sure
right,
that, like Martin Luther King didn't want to tear this government apart. He recognized its beauty, but he realized that it wasn't encapsulating a certain population. Like
right.
we need to come together as a people and say, this is actually right, but we're not following through on it the way that we're supposed to be. And that's where we can be better.
Bro, I was just about to say that whole great man thing. Like you've heard of that, like the great man theory, um, or great woman. There's this idea that every now and then you get this great person
Mm,
and they're a natural born leader. They encompass the ideas of the generation, and through them, this monumental change happens. MLK was one of them, like
yes.
was one of them, Washington was one of them.
Yes.
Like what has to happen for a great man or great woman, a great person to come around? There
Right.
has to be a lot of struggle. I mean, you know, it's almost like do we need to let ourselves get to, I mean, a big frustration we have is that we're in such a dangerous, precarious place. Do we need to let it get to utter shit show before somebody steps up and goes, all right, this has to stop? Because
Right.
it's not, I mean, it's not just that great person stepping up. It's also the fact that they need a huge amount of people to back them.
Right.
Um, and how do you get the common populace to really back monumental change? It has to affect them, which sucks. If we had a preemptive way of thinking, that wouldn't be the case. But unfortunately, it is. Humans just aren't good at dealing with anything other than the concrete,
Right.
which is sad and fucked up. But dude, we gotta move beyond this. We're
Facts.
yeah, we're bumming everybody out. But I mean, it's things that are necessary, but like, I mean, you know,
It's
are
the
we
weight.
what?
It's the weight that everyone should carry.
Yeah,
That bummer weight. I mean, this whole episode is gonna be a fucking bummer, man. But if they get anything from being upset, it's that, first of all, don't fucking put your energy into some bullshit that isn't helping.
yeah,
Second of all, do the thing that you know is helping other people. Just do that. That's it. You know somewhere deep down what's helping other people. You know being angry and triggered and woke isn't helping other people as much as going out and actually fucking helping other people.
right.
Like, right?
Yeah,
Right? So it's like you know what's good, you know what's bad, and then let's be better. Let's be better. We
couldn't
could be
agree
better.
more. So yeah, the whole thing about being better, like, so check this out. Just recently, like, so all of my boys from home, they're back, and we're planning our first winter trip. We're gonna do 4 grams shrooms. I'm so excited.
Word.
Last time we took like 3.5 and felt like I was on the precipice. This time we gotta break through. Because like, what will that breaking through be?
Mm.
Like, I'm so excited. Like, uh, I need. I feel like I need that breaking through, and it's like that's partly because I'm trying to be aware of the fact that there's a lot that I have left to learn.
Yeah.
Um, I really think that like so many people need to break through, and you don't have to do it through tripping. Certainly helps. It's like the, you know, it it's the rocket approach versus the like slow burn of like a diesel truck, you know, driving across the US. That's not the same as taking a rocket out of the stratosphere and just being like, oh my God, like I'm strapped to this. Like I'm understanding so much. Like um but I guess what I'm trying to say is like a lot more people could really understand how they can help people and do things in life by trying better to understand themselves. So I feel like that's a noble and necessary journey. Um, and you know, Oregon goes, hey, psilocybin, it's recreational. You can do what the fuck you want with it. Like, I bet you this is the first step in a ton of other states adopting that exact same policy.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Dude, if it works, I hope so. I mean, I think if it brings, for some reason, a big problem, in one way or the other, then no, I don't want that to be the norm. But I think it actually could be really good. And if it is really good, then I hope that we continue to do something positive with it. And I know that you've been talking about through our, now that now that we've been through this 2-week period together of continuing to remove um our
Like,
plugins.
yeah,
So to
plug in.
speak.
That's
You've
a
been
good term.
talking a lot about the growth that you want to make the next time that you have an experience that will allow you to access, a new part of your brain that's going to help you to better understand yourself, right? And so
Right.
I think that forgive me for rambling here, but I think that it's going to be really dope to see what you have to say about this because you have been thinking about this, for a couple weeks now. And I think that you know what kind of headspace you need to get into. And I think that people really should have an open mind about this kind of thing because, um, they're just don't fall into like the like, oh, the government says it's bad, like we shouldn't be doing like recreational psychedelics, like
Yeah,
why
grow
would
up.
think like that? Yeah, grow up. And
Yeah.
me, I can't wait to find out, like, like how you do.
The trip recap is going to be wild.
I'm so
Like,
hyped.
dude, okay. So to set up for it, um, that same friend who I was telling you about, that's the music major, we use his basement for fucking everything, right?
Mhm.
So we got these tapestries. We've hung them up from the ceiling so that they encompass the ceiling lights. I don't know if I talked about this on a previous podcast, but last time we took shrooms there, I had a come to God moment in the ceiling light where I saw this divine opera of all these different abstract figures dancing around and singing to me in different ways. It was totally like unintelligible, yet I still understood the meaning behind it. Um, in this really, really odd way that only psychedelics can do. Like, um, these like tapestries are like put down from the ceiling to like hide the lights, and they're all tie dye. So it's like I can't wait to see the wisdom that's hidden behind that. Like,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit like not that long ago about how nature can be. I don't remember if this was on the pod or off, but how nature can be its own healer in some respect, um, and also like a teacher. The last time we took shrooms down there, we looked out this window into the forest behind his house, and the sun was setting at the time, so these like rays of sun were peeking through the trees, um, it was like this dark, like orange. And as we looked out to the trees, it created this kind of like sculpted, like, uh, what's the kind of glass that they have in churches?
Oh, stained glass.
Stained glass, yeah. It created this stained glass mosaic where the
Mm,
trees almost moved together to create like a picture. And it was like, oh, oh, that's our church. Like,
ooh,
we're getting caught up in all of these kinds of like earthly and cement issues,
mm,
all of these like very present now churches. Um, and I don't mean churches just in the religious sense, I mean
yeah,
all kinds of ways.
ideologies.
Right, right. Worshiping all kinds of false deities. Like, we we really should be using like the gifts of nature to better understand like ourselves, because like, you know what are we like? Yeah, humans, yeah, we've created this really complicated bureaucracy that we live within, and this really complicated like mangled group of systems. But
Yeah,
like, at our base, we're just a predatory animal. We're an apex predator that uses for our primary weapon our brain, and for our primary sense our thought, or like thought, right? The same way a dog's primary weapon is its like mouth and teeth, and its primary sense is its smell. We just did it a slightly different way. And since we were the first one to discover this, we have beat out every other possible species to this.
right.
So it's like, are we going to get more real wisdom from looking within this weird sort of, um, you know, fake organization we've created? Or are we
Right.
going to get more wisdom from looking back toward the precursors, toward those things we were born of? Nature, natural systems, things that just exist. Like,
Yeah. And understanding like when we're dead and gone and like our life is over, like we're going right back into the thing that created us and that we came from, like we're like you're literally buried into the ground, like back into the earth. Like if there's nothing, if there's anything that tells you more about where we came from and what we like are made out of, it's the fact that like when you die, you're gonna get buried in the ground.
yeah,
Like this is like this kind of hippy dippy sort of ideology, which isn't hippy dippy. That's kind of derogatory. And like, I don't think that it's a derogatory thing at all. But, like a lot of people listening are like, oh, we're all one and the same, bro. But like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
have a certain level of humbleness and realize that we really are, and that like everyone's buried in the dirt. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like you're
Yeah.
buried in the ground just like the rest of us. And like that that's really the harsh reality of our life. And it's also one of the most beautiful things, right? It's like because we are all, like no matter who you are or where you came from or what you've accomplished, like you're going to end up in the earth. And that's the reality of like our mortality and also our importance. It doesn't matter if you're buried with gold and jewels, you're
Right.
still buried in the ground. Like we're all buried in the ground at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of weird the amount of reverence that we have for death too.
Mm,
Like, why do we make gravestones? Like, why do we make coffins? Why do we make crypts? All of that. Like, my sister said something today that really like shook me. What would our earth be like now if every person who had ever died got a gravestone and that cement slab that goes over them to, you know, make sure they stay buried? Like, we would have no free space.
Yeah.
Earth would just be gravestones. Um,
Right.
I understand that emotional reaction to commemorate that person who passed, but like, why do we do that?
We're holding on, probably.
But isn't that so egotistical? Like, that's us leaking so fully into the ego.
I mean but most people are driven by that ego.
Oh, yeah, but we
Yeah.
shouldn't be. Like,
No.
dude, this is another thing. Like, I saw this video on sober ego dissolution. And of course, you can use psychedelics and like a lot of weed to dissolve your ego, where suddenly it's like you're not acting off of personal impulse. You're just acting off of however your soul works. Like, what would happen if we were actively going about that in our sober life? Like doing things that we know are not socially acceptable, do not increase our like social standing, things that would probably be bad for us. Like, you know, um, what if we just ran through the park like naked? Or what if we uh you know jumped up on the counter at McDonald's, or like all of these things that maybe could dissolve the ego, meaning like not doing things for social gain or any kind of community gain. But instead we're just like, I have this impulse, I'm going to do it. Like just act like an animal. Would that make us better or worse? Like, that serious question, because like I had this thought and I was like, is this so misguided? Or
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because or the point is interesting because, does that mean that our ego makes us human, first of all? You know, like the fact that we're not animals and that we don't do that impulsively, does that mean that our ego is what makes us different?
yo, whoa. I've never thought of that. Like in terms of an ego is what
Do,
I
and
guess I've always thought of it as like a soul is what makes us human, but
well that well now I'm taking a pessimistic point and you're taking an optimistic point. So look at this.
I no, I like that. Like the ego is what makes us human.
And
Hmm.
and maybe, maybe we aren't meant to be human. Maybe we are meant to be more than that. And maybe beating that egotistical um, dependence is the mission.
Yeah,
You know,
we gotta ego death. We gotta destroy our egos.
maybe we do, and you know,
We gotta take, yeah, we gotta take. When are we gonna trip? We gotta trip soon.
okay,
It has to happen.
I'll do it with you.
Okay, all right, dude. I'm gonna. We're gonna take shrooms the first time because it's
Okay,
far and away the most fun,
okay,
and we'll do like 3 grams because that's a fun entrance level
mm-hmm.
like way to do it. I feel because
Okay,
you get just enough visuals where you're like, whoa, what's that? By the way, yo, anybody who's listening to this, who's heard us talk about this and kind of is thinking about doing shrooms or just any psychedelic, um, understand it's not like weed, it's not like alcohol, it's not like any other drug. It's not going to affect you permanently. There is so much disinformation about like, oh, it'll fry your brain. It's like, no, no, it won't. It just doesn't. Like
right,
that's not just like ours or my personal opinion. It's like science backs that up.
mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, you can take however much mescaline, psilocybin, LSD, whatever, and you could really like distance yourself from reality, but it's only however much you're willing to distance yourself. Meaning, if you're already solidly grounded, you're not going to move that far.
Right.
You already think existential, like you're just going to move further. So it's like, it becomes an exercise in getting lost in the brain forest and like trying to find your way out of it. Like that's what I think is amazing. So if anybody's thinking about it, take for your first trip, if you don't regularly smoke so much that you get like out of your mind, take 2 grams. Take 2 grams of mushrooms or half a tab of acid. That's going to put you in a very comfortable place. If you want to push it a little bit, take like a tab or a tab and a half of acid, and you'll have some really like profound experiences. Or take like 3.5 grams of shrooms, and like you'll have those really profound experiences. You'll see serpents swimming in the floor below you when you walk into like linoleum flooring. Like, but it's interesting because you realize just how plastic reality is. It's like, why are you able to see that? It's not just because you're fucked up. Like, it's because you're seeing some kind of thing where it's like, oh, like the senses that I have that I've expected to use for everything don't work anymore. So how do I make sense of this?
Mm. Yeah, and these recommendations are also
Yeah.
to be taken with discretion. And we're not like some sort of doctor or some sort of person prescribing things to you. If you decide to do this, this is under your own um, discretion. But
Yeah.
this is something that you should
Thank you
look
for
into.
saying that, by the way.
You what's that?
Thank you for saying that. I
Yeah,
hope it didn't
and
sound
here
like I'm just trying to promote it. It
no,
probably
but here's the thing, Nate. This is an experience, and this is why it's so important that we clarify this. This is an experience that you've had that has allowed you to see the world in a new way. And I
Yeah.
think that everyone needs that. Even if they don't use psychedelics, they need an experience that's going to allow them to see the world in a new way. And I think
Yeah.
that the reason that you find it so profound when you take psychedelic drugs is that it just is so fast and it's so powerful. And I think that's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
something I definitely would love to do with you, and I think that after that, we'd have a fantastic podcast.
That shit would be crazy. Like, but it's like you can take the rocket approach, but for those people who don't want to do that, who don't want to fuck around with anything psychedelic, there's the road trip opportunity.
Right.
You can deeply discover yourself through immersing yourself in different hobbies. You've never tried skiing? Go ski. What do you learn from yourself? You've
Mm,
never tried lifting? Go lift. What have you learned from yourself? You've never
mhm.
tried running. Like, you've never tried really reading. You've never tried writing. Like, there are so many um, innate but also mundane talents that people just have, that other people who don't have those talents just haven't tried. And
Yeah.
there's some people who have those talents and don't know it because they haven't tried. Maybe practicing drawing or painting or photography might be some kind of come to God moment for some people.
Yeah.
And I heartily, heartily encourage it, because if you're not doing everything that you can possibly do to better understand yourself, what are you really doing? Are you just existing? Like, and that kind of exploration, whether it's through psychedelics, whether it's through different hobbies, whether it's through yoga, meditation, whatever it is, that needs to be done.
And people find their own, like somebody said to me once that I thought really made sense, is that art finds you through its own medium, right? So it's like I'm not very artistic, like drawing, like I have terrible handwriting. I'm not good at making art with my hands, but I do like taking pictures. And
Yeah.
that's something that I'm more drawn to. So like as a person, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to find some passion. And I think that that's what people really need, you know, like what we talked about earlier about making a change, you know, make a change with something that makes you passionate. Like if you like taking pictures, you could take pictures of things that are going to make people feel a certain way, you know, and if you're really good at it, then that's going to make change.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
dude, I relate to that so fucking much.
mm,
I'm not I'm an okay illustrator. Like I have like a cartoon style, but I'm not good at the realistic drawing.
mm,
It's just not my thing. I don't know how to, take good pictures, but creative writing, I can spaz on. Like I can really go crazy with that and paint a good picture. Like that's what's beautiful. Like give give stuff that you would have you think you would have hated a shot. Like when I was in like 11th grade, I thought Dungeons and Dragons was the dumbest thing ever. I was like, oh, that's like such a nerdy thing to do. And then I tried it and I was like, oh, this creates such a perfect expression for the way that I already can express myself easiest. Creative writing, like some form of embodying a character or like whatever, it was just easy. And I never would have gotten that opportunity if I didn't go, okay, I just got to give
mm,
this a shot. Like
mm,
maybe for some person, it's a new sport,
right.
like
Do you think
whatever.
so? Do you think subconsciously you kind of had an idea that you were like, okay, I might actually like this, but like it's not cool like this?
Yeah, 100%.
So your
But
ego is kind of in the way. So this is
yes,
something that's really cool. Like Nate is a fantastic creative writer. Like he writes our descriptions for our YouTube videos, and they are just fucking. I have to read them like 2 or 3 times. Like they're fantastic, and you know that if you read our descriptions, I mean they're like off the charts. So something that I like to do too, and maybe this is something we should start incorporating into our podcast is like I like to write poetry. I like kind of have like yeah, which
dude,
is like
I didn't even know that.
yeah, you know, I write a little bit of poetry for Carolyn here and there,
Mhm.
and she likes it, and she was like, she's kind of been asking me for more, and I haven't done a lot at all, but I do really enjoy that, and so like maybe we could do that, you know, like
Yeah,
you and I could both share like a piece of our creative expression in the next podcast. Maybe we could do that. But you know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I think that's a good way to impact the world. And like poetry is not a very manly thing. That's not a very like which the reason I'm saying that is like that doesn't bother me. But there is maybe a passion that you would like to pursue that is not the mainstream, that is not what should fall in line with the way that society has told you to, you
right.
know, express yourself, and fuck that, and like um,
Exactly.
do it anyways because you could change somebody's entire perspective.
Yeah, dude, it's so silly. Like, I mean, you look back over the massive collective of different cultures, how many definitions of manliness or masculinity have we had, right?
Right,
Like the Japanese, like the samurai, they were like warrior poets. Like,
right,
you go back to like the Ottoman Empire, masculinity was being devout, pious, religious, while also ruling with an iron fist. Like, there's so you can go back to any culture and any kind of trait can be exemplified as manly.
right.
That's what that is. Like, and there's this weird thing that happens now where it's like we're pressured to act a certain way. Like that's what that whole thing about toxic masculinity is. It's like, it affects guys, but it also affects like everybody else that we interact with. Dude, this is something I want to know how this affected you in high school. I felt like I'd always liked like improvisation or like acting or stuff like that. And in middle school, I did like a few of the plays that we had. Then as high school rolled around, I was like, all right, yeah, fuck that. Like that's not cool.
Mhm.
I'll just do lacrosse. Like that's my thing. And I'll lift. And I didn't even like rap music, and I was like, all right, I'll listen to rap because like that's what's cool. And
Mm,
it's like how much has that impacted people in allowing them to fully express themselves, and how much has that permanently hampered them? Because when you are developing that period of like 13 to like 18, that is
right.
so formative. How
Yeah.
much are you allowing society to impact that?
Dude, it constantly amazes me how many parallels our lives draw. Because I was in theater. I was in theater from the beginning of middle school or even earlier until, the end of like the start of junior high school. And which is like seventh grade in my town, we have these weird divides. But, from probably like third to seventh grade, there's a theater guild in my town that I was a part of. And like I loved that shit. Like I can't really sing for
Fun.
shit, but like I like acting and I loved it. And in high school there were plays and productions and no, I didn't do them. I thought it was, that was for, that wasn't for kids like me. And I think
Yeah.
that like you're saying, like I wasn't awake enough to realize that and honestly too, something that I was just like it's so funny you bring this up because I was just thinking about this either today or yesterday. Like, man, like I kind of want to get back into that. Like I kind of want to get back into like theater. Like I loved that. And like
So much fun.
it's so it's so weird. And like if you're not really into that kind of idea, then you might not understand it. But it's like I love doing that. I loved expressing myself in that way. And like it's uncomfortable for me now, which is kind of like more a reason to do it because like I used to love it and now I'm like, oh, like I don't know if I used to be so confident and now I'm like, okay, like I'm cool, but like I don't know if I could like act like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just another example of expression of self and you don't need to be who people tell you you need to be. And like the earlier that you can really not even understand that, but act on that, it'll make all the difference, because I
Yeah.
was just with all my boys from home and, the other night, and I was like I was loving it, I was enjoying the whole thing, but I was also in the back of my head like, "Okay, like, how am I acting? Like, am I acting like who I've really developed myself to be, or am I acting like I used to act in high school?" You know?
Right, right. Dude, that kind of coming back home is like so weird because there is an established dynamic that
Mm,
almost encourages you to jump into a way of being.
right,
Um, Dude, that's something that I feel like I've been trying to beat with this whole not even ego dissolution, but just fighting the ego in general. Like, how do you get to some place where you can apply yourself across all kinds of interactions? um, Maybe the most noblest thing, the best place to get to is where you don't change no matter who you're around.
right.
But that's almost impossible.
So
Like, I don't interact with you the same way I interact with all of my roommates, the same way I interact with all my friends from home,
right.
and creates this disconnect when you do like blend those worlds where it's like, whoa, dude, like, why are you not acting exactly the same?
Mhm.
Oh, well, I have to act different to accommodate you guys. Like in the quest of pleasing and getting along with all people, more so getting along with rather than pleasing, it feels almost impossible to retain this sense of self that is continuous. Um, and yeah, yeah, continuous.
Yeah. Yeah, continuous in every form, and I think as a friend, you know, you should look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Am I doing everything in my ability to make sure that the people that I'm around feel like they can be who they are,
Right.
me?" You know?
Right. Yeah. And it's like the problem though is like a lot of other people don't feel that way. And like um I definitely feel like I'll 100% meet somebody before they meet me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, it's like I'm gonna meet you where you are. I don't have a
Right.
problem with it. I'm comfortable enough where it's just like, hey, like I'm not gonna bring up some stuff that I maybe feel super passionate about because I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's what you do in any situation, or it's what I do in any situation.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I think I get down on myself over that because it's like, am I betraying myself? Is that the right way to do things? Like,
I think it is. I think there's a level of humanity to that, Nate.
right?
There's a level of forgiveness and empathy, in that approach that if everyone used it, then there wouldn't be any more arguments on the basis of um superficial things. We wouldn't be arguing about things that don't define us. Like we would only be arguing about the things that were truly important. And when you argue about something like that, I think there is a real level of simplicity. Whereas when things are superficial, there's so much complication involved, right? So,
Yeah.
for example, like if you and I both want, you know, our buddy to get better, um, that's really all that's important, right? But if you and I are arguing about a tax reform, and I know how to make money, and you know how to make people happy, make more people money than one person, then we're gonna argue to the death about, I know how to make myself money, so fuck you. And you're gonna say, no, I know how to make everybody money, so fuck you, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, that's a superficial problem,
Yeah. Yeah.
whereas when we're talking about the health and well-being of somebody else, or things that just run deeper than the surface, like it's interesting, like the deeper things are much more simple. They're much more easily solved. It's yes or no, it's right or wrong, whereas when things are on the surface level, they get sticky and complicated, I think.
It's so hard to get people to get to like beyond the surface though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
dude, this is why I wish that we didn't live in a culture that, you know, promoted that really rugged individualism because rugged individualism is so dangerous because then people are like, well, I need to retain this way of being around absolutely everybody because like I'm not going to lie to you, I've gone so back and forth about this whole issue of, you know, existing for other people or acting for other people. Like it it's interesting that we both have that affinity for uh like drama acting, but also the affinity for we should cater to that other person. Like, is that an acting of sorts? Is that I'm
I,
showing the face that needs to be shown right now?
well, that's dope.
Is it? I
We're
mean,
acting, but we're not acting creatively. We're acting in the under the approval of somebody else.
yeah, but I mean, we talked to I was talking about my aggression earlier on in the
Hmm.
podcast, and it's like if I didn't, exist for somebody else in that time, then, how would I be acting? Um, and I deal with anxiety all the time, and that feels like, well, you shouldn't be just acting for yourself. Um, and the only reason that that's a problem is the only reason that I've known my anxiety is a problem is because people around me don't have the same anxiety. So it's almost like I have to put up my own kind of wall.
Interesting.
Um, right. What would happen like around my friends from home? Everybody has some kind of like anxiety or depression or some kind of fucked up thing. So it's like we're all like we're not stepping on eggshells, but it's just like it's so considerate all the time. Uh,
Yeah.
and I feel the same with like you and your townhouse. Like whenever I hang out with you guys, everybody's extremely considerate. Other people at Springfield, it's like sometimes you can feel like, whoa, like, am I going to be taken advantage of here? I need to
Yeah.
stop my anxiety and I need to go into offensive mode or
Mm.
defensive mode. Um, that's such a weird place to be. It's not where I like to be.
That's where
Um,
your ego's in the driver's seat there, man.
yeah, yeah. If I was a better or stronger person, it would be easier to just go, okay, this person has some issues and I'm still going to exist for them. But like, that's such a hard thing. Like, I know I'm so affected by things that happen outside of myself. Um, what happens if this person makes me like look stupid? Or what happens if this person, like, you know, takes advantage of me in a way that I can't like get even? And it's just like,
Right.
you're right. That's a very ego driven way of thinking. Um, but it almost feels like equalizing the playing field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I wasn't shitting on you for that. Like, I was saying that in a way that, like, just like to make you aware of it. And I think that that's the best thing you can do is just to note, right?
Bro, honestly, please shit on me about that if it's wrong, because
Well,
that's so important. Like, I prize the fact that, like, I often feel like there's times where you check me and I check you, and I think that's good. Like,
yeah, no, I think
so please shit on me if it's wrong, because I need
no,
that.
Nate, it's not wrong that you feel that way. It's wrong that you know, that initial instinct to feel that way is supernatural. Because that's how our ancestors acted. It was who has the biggest dick in the room, right? It's like who can win this battle, right? But right now we're in a place where it's like, you know, if we can help set our ego aside, and this is hard for me too, dude, and you and I both would need guidance in pursuing this um, kind of practice, right? But if if I saw like if you were in a room and you were affected by the way that somebody else thought about you, right? Uh, I would say imagine your level of, if I was like in a position where I was completely removed from your emotions toward that person, I would say imagine how much less energy you would need if you just were like, okay, like, and let it flow by you, right? And this is
Yeah,
where that video that you sent me really comes into play, like that meditation
meditation.
video. And
Yeah,
this guy is talking about your brain is like this pissed off monkey who's like also drunk and also has been like stung by bees or some bullshit. And that's a Buddhist like kind of ideology. But
right.
like if you can sort of see other people and their negativity and their problems as these clouds floating through your minds, and like either you can hop on that cloud and ride it, or you can just watch it flow by, right? And I think that there's a certain level of real true freedom, real undivided um liberty in not being forced to ride that cloud. And I think that there's a clear headedness and just like 2020 vision that comes with that. And I think that me myself, I'm not even close. And I don't think you are either. And I think that that's kind of like that's where we're headed. And I think
Yeah,
that, as long as I check you and you check me, like we can continue to make steps closer towards that goal of just like really seeing things at face value and understanding like, man, like this person's so fucked up, like me. Like I'm really fucked up too,
um,
and like God, I'll be damned if like if I contribute to their misery. Like, wouldn't it be better if I just said like, I love you, man, like, and I'm sorry that you feel that.
that's it's so fucking hard
Yeah,
to do.
so
Like
hard.
you're right. That's what we should be doing. Like following like the spiritual path of ego dissolution. That's what we should be doing.
So hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like, with people we don't feel safe around. Like, how can we be that way?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
and
against our nature.
yeah, yeah. Fuck. It's so tough. Like that's why I look to psychedelics as a teacher.
Mm,
See the way I feel the way it dissolves that ego in some regard. And I just go, okay, you know, give me that next level.
right.
Allow me to weather other people's expression of trauma or discontentment, because I want to be able to, contribute to them and help them.
Right.
And it's so hard because you need to put yourself second. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it that has been a constant thing. That's where a lot of the fear around this aggression that I was talking about comes from, because I'm worried it's coming from a self-interested, me first kind of perspective. And
Mm,
I fucking hate that.
yeah.
Especially when it feels like I don't have any kind of control over it. It's like, well, why is that? Like, you know, um, I'm having like an argument with a family member or a friend. Like, why can I not put that aside? Like, there are some important things that need to be argued, but also,
Yeah.
like, if somebody responds in a certain way, why am I allowing that to get to me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, dude. That's something that's been interesting to me. Like somebody who I'm close to will say something and I'll get mad. And then I'll be like, whoa, why am I mad? He or she is just a product of his environment. And
yeah,
the fact that somebody didn't give him or her the empathy to um be more reasonable about this is the reason that they feel that way. And if I continue not to give that empathy to them, then I'm continuing that cycle.
yes. Okay, let's dig into something personal real quick. Do you feel like when you are, because we talked about flow states a while ago. I feel like I get into a flow state of being that ambivalent neutral being where I can just kind of let things pass over me. Like, there is a certain energy consumption that comes with that. It is draining after a while.
Big
You
time.
know, like with me, I feel like it'll happen for a little bit and then I need to just be alone by myself. If
Mm,
I'm gonna be able to keep that up, I need to be alone by myself. I need to recharge. Like, how does that present in you? Like, how do you feel about that? Like,
yeah, same way, same way. And that's the thing we were talking about. It really ties into what you were saying earlier. It's like if you don't give to yourself, then you won't be able to give to anybody else. And that's that kind of thing that's like sometimes if you are selfish, then it does benefit more people than you because I find like when I'm at school, I think a lot of my roommates depend on me and not just me, but they lean on me
right.
amongst other people to, you know, um, forge their path through our college experience. And I think that happens, in life. And that kind of sounds like like they need help going through college. It's like, no, like people's experiences are legitimate regardless of if they're in college or if they're in the real world with a job. Like people have struggles, like real life college struggles, and like when you put energy into them being okay, if you don't also give as much if not more of that energy to yourself, then you're going to find yourself in a tough place. And I know that you asked me this because I've talked to you about this before, and I've told you that it's something that takes a lot of my energy, but it's something that I find great satisfaction and like warmth in doing is helping people who are going through a hard time, but I think that like while I was at school, I was pretty good about, taking a time aside in my morning to, check me first, check before I check my phone, before I, text anybody or look on Instagram, like how am I doing when I wake up? Like,
Right.
like let me do a little meditation, let me do a little reflection, like let me see how I'm doing, and that energy and time um that allows me to give, and I think that people need to give themselves that time away from outside stimulus is where they can really be with alone with their thoughts.
Right. Yeah, dude. I mean, let me, let me clue you into like a way of being that I've kind of adopted over the last year. Um, be selfish. If you do things selfishly, and this is so antithetical to what we've been talking about,
Is
but
not.
exactly, if you do things selfishly, then at some point, if you're that's the test of like, are you a good person or not? If
Right.
I if I selfishly want to put all this time into the person that I'm in a relationship with, then great. You know, now I have bettered that person by however much and given them that much energy. But these things that like we do, you can't do, you won't be able to volunteer consistently if it's not coming from a selfish place. You need to want to do that. Otherwise,
Right.
it almost doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to put enough energy into it. It's still
Mm,
helpful, but you won't be able to continue doing it and you won't want to. When you really want to, when you selfishly, like, I'm doing this because I want to, I'm putting all of this energy and time and effort into this person because I want to help them. That's a selfish thing, but it also means it's sustainable. If you're putting all this time, effort, and energy into helping your community because you want to, it's a selfish thing, but it's also sustainable now and it's helping a ton of people. Like, living by that selfish mantra of, it's almost like uh ethical self-centeredness, like, I think that's the best way to be. If you can
yeah.
get to that level, which is what we should strive for. If you know you should be doing these things but you don't selfishly want to, then there is something wrong.
Right. And Nate, like when you take that time for yourself, you're taking steps towards dissolving that ego.
Yes.
And when you
Yeah.
dissolve that ego, you can help, right? It's like with the absence of your ego, you have the energy and the power to help other people. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, I've already checked in with myself this morning. So this dickhead who's riding my ass on the way to work, like, all right, like maybe he had a really bad morning. Like I've already
Yeah.
checked in with me. Like I know I'm good. I'm not gonna let him make me mad. Like I'm gonna actually hope that he's doing okay and that his family's okay, right? It's like, and again, I've said it 100 times. Like this is not easy to do, but it's like when you give yourself that opportunity in the morning when you wake up or at some point during your day to say, like, how are you doing? Like, what's up? Like, and you
Yeah.
take that selfish moment like you're talking about and you say like, okay, here I am, this is me, this is what I'm doing, this is what I need to work on, this is what I'm happy with. It's like that ego just, it starts to dissolve, and then you have the ability to give instead of
Take.
allow the world to shovel and pile things onto you. You can, you're free, you're floating, you're above that, in a freeing way.
Bro, that is a beautiful way to describe what we were talking about earlier, meditation, but
Mm,
also like, we have talked so much about like spirituality in so many different forms.
right.
That is it, checking in on yourself to make sure that you're able to weather the storm of the coming world. Like,
Mm,
dude, like, that guy, he obviously, the video that I sent you, he wasn't talking about it in these exact terms,
right.
but that's what it is. meditation is checking in on yourself on a deep level.
Yeah.
And for anybody who hasn't tried meditation, all you need to do is sit there with only your thoughts and really, really check in. And
Mm,
eventually, you are going to get to the level where you're able to check in on everything. Like
right.
it's not going to come all at first. And that, like that fixing practice of meditation, it comes over time. Like the same way when you first start lifting, you're going to make almost no gains. It's going to feel like a futile effort. Um, meditation's the same way. You just got
Yeah.
to give it time. You got to give it energy. You got to find a routine that works for you. All of that. Like,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
I mean,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say meditation can be found in so many ways.
Mm,
Um, Whenever you get into a state where you feel so authentically yourself, whether it's doing creative writing, whether it's acting, you know,
anything.
doing a physical task, anything. That's what that's what everybody should strive for. That's what you should make your career out of. How do you be totally present? How
Yeah.
do you develop that ego? What is your meditative state? Like,
Yes. Yes. And in your every person is capable of achieving that state and even making a living off of that state. I mean, truly, truly. And that is the essence of what an entrepreneur is. It's not some bullshit business salesman who is selling you some snake oil product. It's you understanding that something makes you happy that you consciously do, and you can actually make a living off of that, and at the same time simultaneously make somebody else's life better. And I
yeah,
think that Nate and I will probably we'll throw the link in the description of that YouTube video that we're talking about. This guy's really good. It's this bald dude. He talks at you for 35 minutes. It's kind of a long video, but
it's
it's
it's worth it. Yeah.
it's really good. And, he just, the main thing he talks about is just, when you meditate, he says to shoot for 20 minutes. That's a pretty long time to meditate when you first start off, I think. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
a long time
Yeah.
with your thoughts alone. I shoot
Yeah.
for like 10, 15, and I pump it up every time that I meditate. I do a little more, right? And basically, he just says, like, see your thoughts as clouds. And if you ride that cloud, then, that's not really contributing to your meditation. And if you watch that cloud float away, then that's a beautiful way to, kickstart your day and kind of understand like these thoughts and these ideas in your mind, and your conception of, or yeah, your conception of the way that you, or sorry, perception of the way that you see the world is,
Yeah.
all driven by your ego. And if you let that float away, that's going to make you a better person, and that's going to make the lives of others around you a lot better.
Yeah, dude, it's like it's so weird. Everybody wants to be a better person, but the only thing that holds people back is they don't know how.
Mm. They do, but it takes a lot of energy, bro. It's that key in the lock, but we won't turn it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what you
Yeah.
need to do. You know what you need to do, but it's a lot easier not to.
Right. Dude, I'm so drunk right now. I don't know about you. I'm so drunk.
Can you tell I'm trashed?
Oh, un poquito.
Dude, the thing is, it's weird. Is like, I'm home now, so I'll have a beer with my dad before dinner, and then a glass of wine, and then a couple beers. We've been watching The Mandalorian, which has been fantastic. Highly recommend.
You've been
Uh,
watching Mandalorian. Wait, do you fuck with Star Wars in general?
love it.
Dude, people trash on the Mandalorian only because it doesn't feel like a Star Wars like story. But it's really just exploring the universe.
It's Disney Star Wars, which isn't Star Wars, but
But
that's I'm still there for it. And honestly, so we just watched the third episode of the second season, so that's where I'm at right now. It's fucking fantastic. We're like, on the spoiler alert if anyone doesn't want to hear this, like we're have you seen all three
yeah, yeah.
or all
I think
four that are out?
wait, there's four out?
I think there's a fourth one out, and then this Thursday is gonna be the fifth one of the second season.
All right, I haven't watched the fourth one then. I've watched the first three.
Of the second season?
Yeah, they killed
Whoa.
the crate dragon on Tatooine, and then
Word.
those spiders on like that moon.
That
But
episode was low-key irrelevant.
it, I know, but it was still like,
Still fun to
dude,
watch.
they love that's what I'm talking about. Like they're just building out the universe, which
Yes,
like
I like that.
yeah, same. It's really cool
It's
because it's just like
it's a perspective into all these different planets. And then in the third
yeah,
one, they met the other Mandalorians, and you find out that there's a parsec that Mando, the main character, is from that is much more um,
dark.
traditional than the leading parsec that is trying to retake over Mandalore, which is the planet.
Mandalorian. That shit was interesting because like
I'm fired up.
yeah, did you watch the Clone Wars when you were younger?
Dude, Alden was telling me, I did, but I didn't get through them, and I think I will now. I was trying to over the first quarantine. I think I will now. I'll finish them.
I don't remember all of it, but I watched them when I was younger because I was really into Star Wars when I was a little kid. Like I
So
love that
good.
shit. I ate up the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Um, and dude, I've gone back and so they released a new season and of the
Mm.
Clone Wars. I watched it. I didn't appreciate it as much as I did when I was younger, but it was still really cool. Um, and you know, I was just realizing like the IP of Star Wars, it is so fucking impactful. It has so many lessons it can teach us. And the original like Clone Wars, the amount of lessons that they were putting in that
Oh yeah.
directly correlated to like the way our society is set up, it's like, oh, why are we not taking these? Like,
Yeah. That's
I
so
mean,
cool.
all art does that, but it's
Yeah.
just like something as like prevalent as Star Wars, like people should take that. I don't think I got it as a kid.
Yeah, and I think art is interesting in that way. Like it gives you that zoomed out macro perspective of like, yeah, you fucking idiot. Of course the world's this way. And it's like when you're a kid, it's like, no, like there's lightsabers and blasters and shit. But when you're older, you go back and rewatch something and you're like, wow, this is a really profound perspective on the realities of our world. And like,
Right.
damn, like if this fucking Disney you know, animation artist or like story writer can understand this, then why can't we, and it's like
Yeah.
it's dope. I love that. And I think that there's something like really freeing about consuming content like that because, people agree with that shit, even if it's subconscious, even if it doesn't really align with their, you know, outward beliefs that other people know them to believe, it's like,
Bro, I could go on forever about like the Anakin Skywalker like growth arc,
mm,
but like that whole thing is so beautiful because it is the most contrived character arc in all of media, but it's
uh,
also the most representative because it's only contrived because it happens everywhere. But it's like that thing of, you know, I want this thing so badly. Like, what do I do to make that thing happen? I'm trying to
mm,
avoid what I fear the most. And he becomes the instrument of his own fate, which is everything he's been trying to avoid. Like,
right.
it's so cool because that's so like applicable to everything else that's going on right now.
It's so
Like,
human.
it's so human. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, oh, I've been sold this lie by somebody who's very powerful and feels like I'm getting access to this hidden knowledge. Um, and that's going to help me forestall or totally, you know, lock off the possibility of this fucked up outcome that I would hate to happen. And in my mind, I can't stand happening.
Mm,
Like,
it's
it, it's
it's
cool,
sick.
man. I love it. I love it.
I
Like,
eat that shit up.
yeah, the whole thing about like Darth Vader also coming around at the end and being like, "Oh, I get it. I fucked up." Like, what a beautiful redemption arc. If only everything was so black and white, because some people aren't redeemed after they've fallen to the proverbial dark side. Like,
Yeah.
Mitch
Yeah.
McConnell, he's just Emperor Sidious. That's it. He just deserves to get a
Mm.
lightsaber put in the middle of his chest. Like, he's probably not going to be redeemed. Somebody like, you know, bringing this back to politics, um, yeah, the Mitch McConnells and GOP lawmakers, they are the Emperor Palpatines. Darth
Yeah.
Vader, that's Trump, and everybody who voted for Trump. They didn't mean to. They were just driven by this want for a greater good, and they had no idea how to do it.
Damn.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's almost not even their fault. They were taken advantage of.
They were. They were absolutely taken advantage of.
Yeah, and we can have empathy for them because they wanted the best. Everybody wants the best. It's just, fuck. Sometimes you get sold the wrong lie, and it has more of an effect than you think it's going to have.
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, man.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the truth in Star Wars and in politics.
Yeah. Dude, did we just solve the political party divide using using a metaphor from Star Wars?
Maybe we did. Maybe those are the answers you were talking about earlier.
Maybe. Dude, I mean, another one that's like another piece of media that I feel like is very, very transfigurative. Have you watched Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I love Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings.
yeah. Lord of the Rings has a lot of lessons in it.
I want to rewatch that this break because I've watched that with my dad, years ago, and I loved it, and I love watching The Hobbit as well. But
Fuck
that
you. No, The Hobbit sucks.
really, you think
Yeah,
so?
it's no good.
Really?
Yeah. Wait, dude, the film versions of The Hobbit?
Well, I know that I started the book and didn't finish it, so I don't have a good comparison. But I do know that I have seen the original, was it three Lord of the Rings movies, and then I
Yeah.
also enjoyed The Hobbit. Didn't mind it. What was the matter with it?
I
Did
it
you read
just
the
like
book?
yeah, they added a ton of stuff that like never happened.
Well, that's
You,
that's a very typical book reader perspective of a movie.
you're right.
No,
Let
but
me let me
that's
take my ego out of the way here because you're right. I did just say it's not like the book, so I hate it. It's not what I was already comfortable with, so it sucks.
but Nate,
I wasn't as impressed with it as I was by the Lord of the Rings.
okay, good. That's a good thing for me to keep in mind as somebody who hasn't read the book. And like I think that it's interesting because like we've been talking about these different like forms of or mediums of art express themselves in different ways, right? Where a book can like really take you on a journey and like
Yeah.
express things and can be super fucking long, like thousands of pages long. Right. Whereas like a movie, it's like you really only have like 2 or 3 hours to catch somebody's entertainment. Like, and that's stretching it. Like the Lord of the Rings movies are long, and a lot of people can't even watch them for that long, right? So, like I respect the fact that like when I hear a version of a song and then somebody redoes it, I like the original better. Like that's a human tendency, but like you said, at least you have the perspective of like, yeah, if I liked watching the movie without reading the book, then that's okay. But like, that the book was better. And like, I'm going to benefit from you saying that because maybe I'll fuck around and read the book. And my dad really loves that whole series because that's really like George R. Tolkien. No, wait. Who's the writer?
A.R. Tolkien.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
He was like the original fantasy writer. Like people
Yeah.
in our generation who wrote or who read fantasy as kids, or my dad's and our dad's generation who read fantasy,
Yeah.
think you can thank token. Like that was his child. Like he
Yeah,
really created that. And so like there's real
bro.
power in that, dude. And like understanding like the original version of it is like the most virgin and beautiful form of it.
Yeah, dude. Tolkien spazzed on the Lord of the Rings. Like, do you know he was a linguist by trade.
Really
Yeah, yeah. He had a doctorate in linguistics, and he created this language, Elvish, and then was like, I need to have a whole culture around this because
that's
he understood like the only way that you can have language is if you also have a culture associated with it. Um, so that's where the Lord of the Rings books were like created around. That's where like the Silmarillion was not even like a consumer read originally. You know, it was published by his estate post mortem. Um, it was really just like it was an encyclopedia for him to better understand the culture of elves. Like,
interesting.
yeah, that whole shit's crazy. Like, you want me to fly my nerd flag? I'll go crazy on like the Lord of the Rings trivia.
Love
Like
it. I love it.
all that shit is like I admire that because that's somebody unabashedly expressing their nerddom, but like that's also like that was his passion. Like,
And that's somebody who's probably themselves, regardless of who's in front of them.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about like really nerdy people. It's like
Mhm.
I love weirdness in any respect because it shows like somebody's very comfortable being passionate about something that might not be like cool or like the
Yeah.
mainstream. Um, dude, that's like a weird sickness I've realized. The mainstream, like what is cool is to not have a passion. I mean, those people that seem like they can like talk to anybody or like just get along with anyone, it's like what's your personality? Like I've noticed for a lot of people it's like, oh, you know, you don't really talk about much. Like um and then I'm like I get selfishly I get bored with those people.
Right.
Like I love the people who have like some kind of like weird passion that they're like really into that they can just talk on. Somebody who's comfortable just talking like aggressively about something,
Yeah.
I love because it's like, oh, okay, like you're really a whole person. You're gonna show yourself to me. Like that's amazing.
Mm.
That's something, but equal parts, that's something I have such a hard time talking about. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, I think Nate that you find things that you feel like other people would back you in to be passionate about. Whereas like maybe you wouldn't like come at somebody for saying that it's stupid that you like theater, but you would come at somebody for saying that like it's stupid that we don't have a higher minimum wage, you know, like there's more
well,
force.
that's true.
Do you think that's true? I mean, I don't know if I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like there is more force behind something that's more popular, such as politics, than something that's less popular, such as theater. And like that's your, you know, that's like your ego, and that happens to me all the time too. Like I completely agree. You know, like there's certain things that I'm willing to stick my neck out for, and certain things that it's harder for me to stick my neck out for. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I think that's a good observation because I am passionate about a few things. Politics happens to be one of them, but it also happens to be one of those things where you can talk about that because nobody's going to be like, "What? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you care a lot about like the welfare of people?" It's like, no, I can talk about that and there's going to be a huge constituents of people that will back me up. But if I launch into some talk or conversation about how, oh, everybody should play D&D because I think it helps people develop better like teamwork skills or whatever, like very few people are going to back me up on that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that is like, you know, we should be sticking up for all the things that we're passionate about, not just the ones that has a massive constituents of people who will back us up.
And as people who as people who care about the people in our lives, we should be able to listen to things that fire other people up and understand that even if that doesn't align with what turns us on, it's still important because it turns the people that we care about on. And
Yeah,
you know,
that I think is a sign of maturity. Like,
mm,
there's some people I've interacted with where it's like, what do you mean you can't hear somebody else talk about? Like, I have some friends who are really fucking passionate about fast food and they love to talk about that. And I'm like, I couldn't give less of a fuck. But it's really interesting that you passionately understand and have an opinion on the KFC menu. You know, like,
yeah,
I think that's cool to listen to.
yeah, it
But
is cool. It is cool.
yeah,
It's
but
it's cool to hear anyone's passion, yeah, because it's
yeah,
because I think you understand it. Like, I think as a human you understand where passion comes from because, everyone is passionate about something, whether they like suppress their passion for it or not. So it's like when you hear somebody else be like, man, like I love this fucking like part of the menu at KFC. It's like, okay,
but
like God, I could not fuck with KFC less, but like I know that I love like playing guitar and like if they love the fried chicken as much as I love playing guitar, then god damn it, like I might as well sit here and listen to him talk about it. Like
yeah, dude, music's another one of those things. Um,
music, sure.
like I can't play a single musical instrument. I
Hmm.
like listening to it, but I don't know shit about music. And then it's like a few of my friends are really, really into it. Like they're
Hmm.
like making their careers in it.
Right.
Like a
Right.
few of them have released like an actual album. Like
Wow.
one of them like actually like mixed that, another one's working on it, and it's like hearing them talk about it, it's like, dog, I can't contribute anything to this conversation, but I love the fact that you're fired up about this. Like, it's just great to hear about, because you're like, oh, okay, maybe I can glean some kind of wisdom from this. But then,
Hmm.
like, you know, at other times it's like I get mad when people just talk about that incessantly, because it's like, um, you know, I get mad because I have nothing to contribute, and it's my ego acting on me again. Like, how dare I try and, you know, sway their pursuit of this passion purely because I can't contribute to it in that
Right.
moment? Like, what the fuck am I thinking?
Right. And rightfully so, but it's also a level of their emotional intelligence to, you know, to let their ego aside and be like, okay, like, I can talk to like I've known Nate for my whole life, and like I could talk to him for about 15 or 20 minutes about this passion of mine, and he's going to give me everything that he has to listen to my passion. But then after a certain point, it's like,
Right.
you can't continue to, and there is a certain level of awareness you have to have with that, where it's like,
Yeah.
like you have to be able to express what makes you tick to your friends while also understanding like your friends only have so much to give. And I think we ask a lot of other people, like I think someone like as a person, like good exercise is asking yourself like how much are you asking of the people that you love on a day-to-day basis? How much are you pulling? How much energy, how much time, and like and how much are you giving in the same breath? Like
Right.
there's a real balance to find there.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a central truth, because it does suck to be that person who's giving. It sucks to be the person who's giving every time, everything. Because if you're always giving, it's like, well, then, you know, that means you can only draw from the energy that you give yourself. And, if you're spending most of your day around other people, it's like you're just not going to be able to equalize that playing field.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Dude, again, we didn't introduce the podcast, but I'm guessing we'll just do that in the intro.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, episode 9, and we don't have a working title yet. but I'm guessing we're gonna base this off of like, you know, the pursuit or, you know, what we should be doing. We're gonna cobble something together.
Yeah, we'll pull something together. And listen, Nate, I don't know if you looked at the time, but this is going to be just shy of 3 hours long.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but it didn't feel long at all, man. And
Yeah.
anyone who has, reached it to this point, fucking namaste, brother. We really appreciate you. And we're going to continue to do this for you guys and for us. Yeah, I think this was dope, dude. I really think that, we're just gonna keep on rolling these out and hope that people fuck with it.
Yeah, dude. We covered some good ground today.
For sure.
Even if people didn't fuck with the politics or Star Wars talk,
Oh wow.
there's something good in there.
For sure.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Episode 9. That's a wrap.
Good night. We love you.
Yeah.
Peace.